Chapter 13:15. Haha. At this moment, Lu Ming sneered. Since he returned, Chu Luo had been mocking and ridiculing him nonstop, which had already made Lu Ming a little unhappy. Lu Ming looked coldly at Chu Luo and said, "Which eye of yours saw me overestimating myself? Also, do you think you're great just because you're an emperor? In my eyes, you're not worth mentioning." "What did you say?" Chu Luo was furious and suddenly stood up from his seat. The might of an emperor erupted from his body, and a terrifying pressure pressed down on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was as calm as a breeze, sitting there motionlessly. "Chu Luo, sit down," Xia Luan berated. "Demon ancestor, you've seen it too. This person is arrogant and doesn't even take an emperor seriously. I used to think that he was a top figure, but now it seems that I was completely wrong about him." Chu Luo said, "I'm not looking down on an emperor, I'm looking down on you." Lu Ming sneered. "You're looking down on me? Good, good, good. I'd like to see how much you've improved after your trip to the continent of divine ruins. How dare you speak so arrogantly? Today, I'll teach you a good lesson on behalf of the demon ancestor." Chu Luo was furious. He stepped out of his seat and pressed towards Lu Ming. The aura on his body grew stronger and stronger. Some of the supremes on the side had a drastic change in expression and felt that it was difficult to breathe. "If you want to fight, then let's fight outside." Lu Ming stood up and took a step out. In a flash, he left the hall and arrived in the sky outside the hall. Many people were stunned. What did Lu Ming say? He wanted to fight Chu Luo? Did he really dare to fight Chu Luo? Many people thought that they had heard wrongly. Although Lu Ming had restrained his aura, they could still sense that Lu Ming was only at the spirit god realm. A young man at the spirit god realm actually wanted to fight an emperor? Lu Ming was either crazy or extremely arrogant. Ha ha ha, you've seen it too. This kid is arrogant and ignorant. I'll teach him a lesson. Chu Luo laughed angrily, his eyes filled with anger. Lu Ming actually dared to challenge him. A spiritual deity challenging an emperor was a great insult to him. He had to teach Lu Ming a lesson. He didn't even consider that all of this was the result of him constantly provoking Lu Ming. With a flicker, Chu Luo left the hall and arrived in the air. "Let's go out and take a look." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The experts in the main hall rushed out of the main hall and stood in the void. Lu Ming, Yan Kuang-to revealed a worried look and also rushed out of the main hall. "Lu Ming." A strange look flashed across Xia Luan's eyes. Based on his understanding of Lu Ming was not an arrogant person. On the contrary, Lu Ming never fought someone he was not confident about. Could Lu Ming really create a miracle and contend against a ruler? Xia Luan's eyes were filled with anticipation as he walked out of the hall. "Look, who's that?" "That's the Chu Luo Demon Emperor, and the other person is Lu Ming, General Lu." "What's going on?" "It looks like the Chu Luo Demon Emperor is going to fight with General Lu." "No way. The Chu Luo Demon Emperor is a ruler. How could General Lu be a match for him?" With so many experts gathered in the sky, their auras were mighty and the commotion was huge. Many people in the 100 Beast tribe sensed the commotion and looked over. Some of them were in disbelief. High up in the sky, "Lu Ming, I admit that although you are talented, you are too arrogant and condescending. Today, I will teach you a lesson to wake you up and let you know who you are." Chu Luo's voice was heard as he took a step forward. With every step he took, heaven and earth seemed to resonate with him and trembled. The powerful aura of a martial emperor burst out and spread between heaven and earth, causing many people to tremble and break out in cold sweat. Some of the weaker cultivators knelt down as if they were facing the heavenly Tao and could not resist. However, Lu Ming stood quietly in the void. His body did not move, and he did not even lift his eyelids. This world is much bigger than you think. The divine region is just a small part of it. In the entire Yuan realm, a rank 1 martial emperor is just a low-level existence. As a rank 1 martial emperor, you act high and mighty. Your achievements will stop here. A calm and indifferent voice came from Lu Ming's mouth. Shut up. My achievements will not be judged by you. Lu Ming's words infuriated Chu Luo. With a shout, Chu Luo was the first to move. He took a step forward and clenched his claws in the air. A pitch-black claw, condensed from demonic aura, grabbed at Lu Ming. Even a prime would be seriously injured by this claw. However, Lu Ming did not move in the face of this claw. It was as if he did not see it and allowed the giant claw to grab him. Why isn't Lu Ming fighting back? Could it be that he is frightened or imprisoned? The power of an emperor is too terrifying. It can imprison heaven and earth. Lu Ming probably wants to fight back, but he can't move his body. Seeing this scene, many people guessed. Lu Ming dodged. Yan Kuangtu became anxious. However, Lu Ming still did not move. Humph! A mere spiritual god and dares to preach to me. I will teach him a lesson. As long as I don't kill him and break a few of his bones, I think the demon ancestor will not blame me. Chu Luo sneered, and the demonic qi became stronger. In an instant, the giant claw was about to grab Lu Ming's head. At this moment, Lu Ming finally moved. Lu Ming's movement was very simple. He threw a simple punch. Boom! The space exploded like tofu. The claw that Chu Luo condensed also exploded under Lu Ming's punch, disappearing into nothingness. Everyone's pupils suddenly widened in shock. Lu Ming's seemingly casual punch defeated the claw condensed from Chu Luo's demonic qi. Although Chu Luo didn't use his true ability at all, it could still injure a supreme being. However, it was defeated so easily by Lu Ming. How was this possible? Lu Ming's combat strength had already reached such a level? It was too shocking. What a powerful punch. Its power is boundless, especially the power of his physical body. It's extremely shocking. Why do I feel like it's a spiritual body erupting? The barbaric emperor spoke with deep surprise in his eyes. I have the same feeling too. The other emperors also spoke. Lu Ming. Xiaowan's eyes also lit up. Yan Kuangtu's eyes were even brighter. You have some ability. Take another move of mine. Chu Luo roared. He felt humiliated after being blocked by Lu Ming, and the anger in his heart burned even more. Buzz! The demonic domain spread out from his body and enveloped Lu Ming. At the same time, the muscles all over his body swelled, and he suddenly threw a punch. This punch contained the power of the domain and the power of his spiritual body. Its power was 10 times stronger than the previous move. Chu Luo had already used his true strength and displayed the power of an emperor. Roar! Roar! Chapter 13:16. Swoosh! Lu Ming performed the wind origin skill. With a tremble of his body, he rushed toward Chu Luo and threw out a punch. The two of them each threw out a punch, which collided in the air and bombarded each other. Boom! A deafening sound was heard. Then, under everyone's shocked and incredulous gazes, Chu Luo's domain was shattered by Lu Ming's punch. Crack! The sound of bones breaking resounded throughout the place. Chu Luo screamed. His entire arm was deformed. His body shook violently and was sent flying like a cannonball. Lu Ming, on the other hand, did not move at all. Oh my God! Everyone looked at this scene with their mouths agape. They were completely stunned and tongue-tied. Their eyes were full of disbelief. Chu Luo, a demon emperor, was sent flying by Lu Ming's punch and his hand bones were broken. How was this possible? This was simply like a fantasy story, something that was simply impossible to happen. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that such a thing had happened. In fact, even if they saw it with their own eyes, many people would not dare to believe it and thought that they were dreaming. Boom! Many powerhouses could not control the excitement in their hearts, and their bodies erupted with strong auras. Even Xiaowan was the same. Monster, he's really a monster. It seems that the people of the Divine Gate are not telling the truth. They must be hiding something. Xiaowan muttered to himself, revealing an extremely excited expression. Lu Ming, Yan Kuangtu also muttered softly, trembling with excitement. One punch had injured an emperor. What did this mean? It meant that Lu Ming's combat strength had at least reached the level of an emperor. With such little combat strength, you still act high and mighty. Who gave you the confidence? Lu Ming stepped in the void and rushed toward Chu Luo at an extremely fast speed, throwing out another punch. This punch contained Lu Ming's true origin, the power of the 9 dragon forces, the power of the 3rd bloodline, and of course, the power of a pure spirit body that had reached 50%. The terrifying power, coupled with the hell-suppressing heaven skill, was extremely powerful. Chu Luo roared wildly. A battle saber appeared in his hand, and he slashed out fiercely. This attack was the eruption of Chu Luo's strongest combat strength. Boom! The dazzling saber gleam collapsed under Lu Ming's iron fist. The terrifying fist force bombarded Chu Luo's combat saber, causing Chu Luo's body to tremble violently. He retreated violently and spurted blood from his mouth. 9 dragons, stomping the heavens. Activating the wind origin art, Lu Ming appeared above Chu Luo's head. His hands rapidly formed hand seals, and 4 sealing gates appeared around Chu Luo. A powerful sealing force locked Chu Luo in the void. During this time, Lu Ming didn't give up on cultivating the 9 seals. Every day, he would take some time to comprehend it. After several months of bitter cultivation, the 9 seals of the divine gate had taken another step forward. He could condense 4 sealing doors at once, and their power was even stronger. Then Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, taking 8 consecutive steps. Boom! 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 Chu Luo's body shook violently. With every step he took, he spat out blood. In the end, he smashed into the ground like a meteor. Sizzle! Sizzle! Lu Ming waved his hand and activated the Thunder Origin art. A lightning whip, condensed from lightning, flashed out and wrapped around Chu Luo's body, pulling him in front of Lu Ming. At this moment, Chu Luo's face was pale. Half of his body had exploded, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. Chu Luo was an emperor. If he were an ordinary martial artist, he wouldn't have survived. An emperor had a spiritual body, so he could recover with some time. At this moment, Chu Luo looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of fear and disbelief. There was a deathly silence at the scene. Chu Luo had lost. Chu Luo had been thoroughly defeated. Facing Lu Ming, Chu Luo was like a baby who couldn't withstand a single blow. Chu Luo was an emperor, and his cultivation had reached the late 1st level of the martial emperor realm. He wasn't weak among martial emperors, but he couldn't fight back against Lu Ming. Was he still human? Was Lu Ming still human? The cultivation level that Lu Ming displayed was only at the primordial god realm. Since when did a spiritual god realm cultivator have such combat strength that he could easily crush an emperor? No one had heard of such a thing since ancient times. Everyone just widened their eyes and stared blankly at the scene. They were completely speechless. Are you very strong? Lu Ming stared at Chu Luo and said indifferently. Chu Luo's body trembled when he heard those words. These 3 short words made him feel so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. Just now, he thought that he was an emperor and looked down on Lu Ming. When Lu Ming said that he wanted to rescue the World Academy alone, he said that Lu Ming was arrogant and ignorant. But now it was proven that he was both arrogant and ignorant. Chu Luo's body trembled slightly. After a short while, Chu Luo took a deep breath, lowered his head, and bowed deeply to Lu Ming. He said, "Commander Lu's talent is unprecedented and has surpassed the great figures of ancient times. I was ignorant and had eyes but failed to see. Please forgive me, Commander Lu." Chu Luo's voice was sincere and came from the bottom of his heart. He was finally convinced, completely convinced. Such a genius had never been heard of since ancient times, at least not in the divine wilderness continent. It had exceeded his imagination, and he was finally convinced. Commander Lu's talent is unprecedented and dazzling. The other experts in the surroundings were deeply moved, and they bowed to Lu Ming as well. Commander Lu's talent is unprecedented and dazzling. Commander Lu's talent is unprecedented and dazzling. After that, even more people bowed to Lu Ming, and their voices grew louder and louder. In the end, it resounded throughout the entire 100 Beast tribe. Through this battle, many people were truly convinced by Lu Ming and recognized that Lu Ming had formed an alliance with Xiaowan and was the supreme commander. Previously, many people had called Lu Ming Commander Lu because of Xiaowan. In fact, they looked down on Lu Ming in their hearts. However, after this battle, everyone truly placed Lu Ming in the same position as Xiaowan or even higher. He had such combat strength before breaking through to the martial emperor realm. If Lu Ming broke through to the martial emperor realm, how strong would his combat strength be? It was unimaginable. Lu Ming stood in the void, accepting the worship of the experts. His face was calm, like an invincible god of war. Go back and heal your injuries." Lu Ming waved his hand and put away the lightning whip. Chu Luo flew far away. "Thank you for showing mercy, Commander Lu." Chu Luo bowed. "Haha, Lu Ming. I haven't seen you in a while, and I have a whole new level of respect for you." Xie Wan stepped forward and laughed. He then asked, "Lu Ming, did the experts from the divine sect hide anything when they came to the divine wilderness continent?" "That's right." Lu Ming nodded. Now that he had established his prestige, there was no need for him to hide anything. This time, the divine sect is not the only sect that came to the divine ruins continent to recruit disciples. There are 3 other sects. Lu Ming said, "There are 3 other sects from Yuanlu." Many people's hearts trembled. In their hearts, the Yuanlu sects were lofty and unreachable existences. This time, there were a total of 4 sections. Xie Wan seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes lit up. Chapter 13:17. It's true that I have offended the sky pride of the celestial divine sect, but that sky pride has been defeated by me. I have also joined another major sect in Yuanlu, the divine Dragon Valley. Lu Ming said, "Indeed." Xiaowan's eyes shone brightly. General Lu has joined a major sect in Yuanlu. The hearts of many other experts trembled as their eyes shone brightly. General Lu's talent is unparalleled. Someone roared again, extremely agitated. This time, they were more sincere and respectful than before. Previously, it was because of Lu Ming's strength. This time, it was because of Lu Ming's identity. Lu Ming had joined a major sect in Yuanlu and was now a disciple of the sect. His identity had become superior in the eyes of the crowd, even surpassing Xiaowan. "All right." Lu Ming gestured with one hand and the crowd quieted down. "We'll talk about the details later. Now we'll follow the original plan and head to the World Academy to rescue the World Academy." Lu Ming said, "No, General Lu. If you want to go, we'll go with you. It's too dangerous for you to go alone." The barbaric emperor said, "Yeah, we'll go with you." Yan Kuangta said, "No need. You guys stay here. I know what I'm doing. I won't put myself in danger." After Lu Ming finished speaking, he did not say anything else. He drew a line in the air with both hands, and the air cracked open. Lu Ming stepped into the crack and disappeared. Even after Lu Ming disappeared, everyone's agitated emotions had not calmed down. It was mainly because of the shock caused by Lu Ming. It was too shocking. When Lu Ming went to the world of divine ruins, Lu Ming's cultivation base was only at a very low level. Now he was able to suppress an emperor. His improvement was too shocking. "No, we can't let Lu Ming take the risk alone. Emperor Yuexin, Emperor Tianfeng, you guys guard this place. Mo Yi, barbaric emperor, follow me and head to the World Academy secretly. If Lu Ming is in danger, we'll help him." Xie Wan ordered. "I'll go too. Demon ancestor, I'll go too." Yan Kuangtu and Chu Luo stepped out. Although Chu Luo was injured by Lu Ming, his origin was not damaged. At this moment, his spirit body was recovering quickly. Half of Chu Luo's body that was damaged. Of course, this was because Lu Ming was being merciful. If his origin was injured, it would be impossible for him to recover so quickly. All right, let's go together. After saying that, Xiao Wan tore open space and brought a group of experts to head towards World Academy. The World Academy. The Academy was a place. The White Emperor's white jade palace. Only white palace. Was white the white jade palace floated high up in the sky, emitting a blinding light. The white palace was White Emperor in the army. There were people from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse Sect, and the Southern Ming Kingdom. There were also people from the other overlords of the Central Continent. Because they had pledged their allegiance to DE, they were also fighting for hegemony with him. Boom! At the top of the White Jade Palace, there were two stalwart figures. They were enveloped by endless divine light and emitted a terrifying aura. It was the might of a sovereign. The two figures were emperors, and they were currently attacking the White Jade Palace. Inside the White Jade Palace, there were two white-haired old men who also emitted the auras of rulers. They were working together to resist the attacks of the rulers outside. Attack together. This White Jade Palace won't last for long. In the crowd, there was a middle-aged man in a purple robe giving orders. If Lu Ming was here, he would definitely recognize that this person was Wang Xingtian, the head of the Wang clan, one of the 6 great ancient clans of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Now he was in high spirits. He was one of the first people to follow Martial Emperor Di. He was Di Yi's trusted aide. Ever since Martial Emperor Di Yi revealed his true strength, he had been invincible. The older Di Tian Divine Palace got, the stronger he became. However, the powerhouses who joined later on naturally did not have a higher status than him. Only the rulers had a higher status than him. Those supremes were lower than him. They had to curry favor with him and listen to his orders. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless attacks and beams of light shot towards the White Jade Palace from all directions. The White Jade Palace was completely submerged in the beams of light. Block! In the White Jade Palace, the disciples and elders of the World Academy roared. They cooperated with the White Jade Palace's array and attacked, doing their best to block. Rumble! However, there were too many attacks coming from the outside. The White Jade Palace rumbled and shook. If this continued, they would not be able to hold on for long. World Academy, I advise you to quickly surrender. Right now, His Majesty Martial Emperor Di is the hero of 10,000 people. By the order of the heavens, he will unify the divine wilderness continent. If you stubbornly resist, you will be courting death. The Wang clan head's voice spread far and wide. Humph! Di is ambitious. He wants to rule the divine desolate continent. Dream on. Our World Academy would rather die than surrender. Voices could be heard coming from the White Jade Palace. The Wang clan head's face sank. He snorted coldly and said, "You really don't know your limits. I already gave you a chance, but you don't know how to cherish it. In that case, Dai, continue attacking." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Thousands of attacks and beams of light flew towards the White Jade Palace. The intense battle continued. At this moment, 1,000 miles north of the World Academy, the space cracked and Lu Ming's figure stepped out. "Looks like I'm not too late." Lu Ming looked into the distance and muttered. He then took a step forward and headed towards the battlefield. 1,000 miles was crossed by Lu Ming in the blink of an eye. "Who is it? Stop right there." As soon as Lu Ming approached, he was discovered. A group of black-robed martial artists with sinister aura stared at Lu Ming. Na Ming's men. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes as he continued to move forward. Na Ming's men were easy to recognize. "Brat, stop. You're courting death." A third-level spirit god expert slashed at Lu Ming with his blade. Lu Ming stretched out a palm and clenched it in the air. A devouring force erupted from his palm. The third-level spirit god expert was enveloped by the devouring force. His body was fixed in the air and couldn't move at all. Then he was horrified to find that his essence, blood, true yuan, and intent runes all flew out of his body and into Lu Ming's palm. Such a strange scene frightened him so much that he screamed. But every few breaths, his body shriveled up and lost all signs of life. What kind of evil technique is this? Let's attack together and kill this person. At the side, the others widened their eyes when they saw this scene. They then roared and charged at Lu Ming. Devour, Lu Ming muttered. An even stronger devouring force erupted and enveloped this group of people. This group of people turned into dried corpses and fell to the ground like raindrops. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Horrified screams resounded. More people discovered Lu Ming and attacked Lu Ming. Chapter 1318. Regardless of whether they were below the spiritual god realm or above, the outcome was the same. They were devoured and turned into dried corpses. Retreat, retreat! Call the experts over. The army was in chaos, and many people retreated in horror. The army was in chaos because of Lu Ming, and a gap appeared. Who is so bold to attack my Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? There was a loud shout, following which figures flashed and more than 10 figures appeared in front of Lu Ming. What a coincidence! Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. A few of them were Lu Ming's old acquaintances. The Wang family's patriarch, Wang Xingtian, the Jiang family's patriarch, and the Luan family's patriarch. 3 of the 6 ancient families' patriarchs of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace had come. Behind the 3 patriarchs were a dozen people. 3 of them were Supreme Being experts, while the others were at the great circle of the spirit god realm. You, it's you! The patriarch of the Wang family, Jiang family, and the others were stunned when they saw Lu Ming. They stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. Lu Ming, it's you. Didn't you die? You died in the hands of the celestial god sex genius in the continent of God. After a long while, everyone recovered. The patriarch of the Wang family pointed at Lu Ming and shouted in disbelief. The news that the experts of the Southern God Palace had come to the divine wilderness continent and announced Lu Ming's death had spread throughout the divine wilderness continent. Almost all the powerful forces knew about it. Wang Xingtian and the others had thought that Lu Ming had died in the continent of God. Now that they saw him, they were naturally shocked. How could I die when you're not dead? Lu Ming smiled faintly. So you're not dead. You're really lucky. However, you're really stupid. Since you're not dead, you should have hidden. Now that you've come here, you're really courting death. I'll fulfill your wish. The patriarch of the Wang family laughed loudly and revealed a ferocious killing intent. He released his aura and locked onto Lu Ming. He was afraid that Lu Ming would escape. With just you, last time in 9 Dragon City, you managed to escape with your life. This time I won't fail. Lu Ming smiled coldly. You're courting death. The head of the Wang family roared furiously. Last time in 9 Dragon City, Lu Ming had almost killed the Wang family's patriarch with the divine 9-dragon cauldron. This matter was considered taboo by the Wang family's patriarch. Now that Lu Ming had brought it up again in front of everyone, it was a stab to the Wang family's patriarch's heart. Boom! The head of the Wang clan radiated a cold killing intent as he stepped forward. His entire body was covered in purple flames that completely annihilated the void. The temperature of the area rose rapidly. Some of the weaker cultivators were shocked and quickly retreated. I will burn you to ashes. A cold voice came from the Wang clan head's mouth. The Wang clan head pushed his hands forward, and a large purple fireball flew towards Lu Ming. The temperature of the purple fireball was terrifyingly high. Wherever it passed, space was annihilated, revealing black spatial passageways. In an instant, it flew in front of Lu Ming. Die! The Wang clan head laughed sinisterly, but in the next moment his smile stiffened. Lu Ming reached out a hand and grabbed the purple fireball. The purple fireball shrank rapidly and finally turned into a wisp of flame, burning and jumping in Lu Ming's palm. "This is your flame? You want to burn me to ashes? In my opinion, it's not even enough to cook a meal." Lu Ming sneered. He then blew a puff of air, and the flame in his palm was extinguished. A slap in the face, a slap in the face. The Wang clan head's face was flushed red. He stared at Lu Ming and wanted to bite Lu Ming to death. "Die!" The head of the Wang family roared, and the flames on his body became more vigorous. A ball of purple flames appeared on top of his head. Moving his body, he performed bloodline integration and turned into flames. The flames twisted and eventually turned into a purple flaming combat sword that slashed toward Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming didn't even look at it and punched the purple sword. A scream was heard as the purple sword shattered. The Wang clan head's figure appeared with blood spurting out of his mouth. His face was filled with fear as he frantically retreated. As soon as the Wang clan head retreated, a series of screams were heard. The path that the Wang clan head took was the army. At least 1,000 people were killed by the Wang clan head. "Run!" The others screamed and ran as far as they could. A battle between supremes was too dangerous. If they were too close, they wouldn't even know how they died. "Today, the one who will die is you." Lu Ming stared at the Wang clan head and stepped forward. "Save me! Save me!" The Wang clan head screamed in fear. By the side, the head of the Jiang family, the head of the Luan family, and the rest were initially stunned. Lu Ming had injured the head of the Wang family with one punch. They were really stunned and somewhat in disbelief. Now that the head of the Wang family shouted, they finally regained their senses. "Attack! Kill him! Kill!" The Jiang clan head, Luan clan head, and the others roared and attacked together. 5 supremes attacked at the same time. 5 different rays of light tore through the sky and blasted toward Lu Ming. "Get lost!" Lu Ming spat out coldly and threw out 5 punches in a row. 5 rays of fist intent tore through the sky. Boom! 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 The fist intent easily shattered the attacks of the 5 supremes. The Jiang clan head, Luan clan head, and the others groaned as they were knocked back while vomiting blood. With just 5 casual punches, 5 supreme beings were heavily injured. Countless people who had retreated far away sucked in a breath of cold air. As for the Wang family head, he was scared half to death. He was dumbfounded. He thought that he was dreaming. How long had it been? Lu Ming had only taken a trip to the Godly Ruins continent. How did he become so strong after returning? Was he still a member of the younger generation? Lu Ming continued to attack the Wang clan head. The Wang clan head roared in fear and desperately retreated into the crowd. He wanted others to block Lu Ming for him. "You guys block him. Damn it, how dare you run? I'm the trusted aide of Marshal Emperor Di. You guys are courting death. I'll kill all of you in the future." The Wang clan head roared. However, the others were not idiots. They all ran away when they saw the Wang clan head coming over. No one blocked Lu Ming for him. Are you kidding? Injuring 5 supremes with a single punch? Aren't they just courting death? The Wang clan had almost lost all hope. Clang! At this moment, the saber gleam exploded in the sky. A black saber gleam cut through the void and slashed toward Lu Ming. Its power was terrifying. The martial emperor had attacked. Boom! A dragon roar came from Lu Ming's body. He then threw out a punch and clashed with the saber light. The saber light was successfully blocked by Lu Ming. Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of Lu Ming. It was an old man in a black robe. He was skinny and his eye sockets were sunken. He looked like a skeleton. However, the aura emanating from his body was extremely frightening, causing one's heart to tremble. He was an emperor, the 3rd emperor of the underworld. Chapter 1319. There were only 5 or 6 sovereigns in Nanming Kingdom, and they were all ranked. The 1st emperor of the underworld was the most powerful, followed by the 2nd emperor of the underworld. The third emperor of the underworld was the most powerful. When the third emperor of the underworld attacked, the family head of the Wang family was overjoyed. He thought that he was saved. Third emperor of the underworld. His Majesty Di wants to capture this man. Quick! Kill him, and His Majesty will reward you handsomely. The family head of the Wang family shouted. Such combat strength at such a young age is rare. It's a pity that you don't know how to keep a low profile and come here. I'll send you on your way, hee. The third emperor of the underworld laughed. His voice was dry and unpleasant, like that of a skeleton. His body was covered in a large black robe, which covered his entire body. It looked like a piece of black cloth floating in the air. Netherworld realm. Turn into my netherworld chi. The third emperor of the underworld smiled hideously. A black realm spread out and shrouded Lu Ming. The speed of the realm was extremely fast. As soon as it appeared, it covered an area with a radius of 100 miles. Lu Ming was also shrouded in it. Suddenly, he felt countless black shadows pouncing on Lu Ming. Endless netherworld chi penetrated Lu Ming's skin and tried to corrode Lu Ming and turn him into netherworld chi. Clang! At the same time, a black saber appeared in the third emperor of the underworld's hand, and he slashed at Lu Ming. In his own realm, the third emperor of the underworld's speed was extremely fast. As soon as the saber slashed out, it was in front of Lu Ming. Wind origin skill. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He used the wind origin skill, and his body moved without wind. He swayed slightly and dodged the third emperor of the underworld's attack. At the same time, he threw out a punch. Clang! The fist force hit the side of the saber, and there was a loud bang. The third emperor of the underworld's body trembled, and he could not help but take 2 steps back. As for Lu Ming, he also took a few steps back with a bang. Such powerful strength! The third emperor of the underworld was shocked. Netherworld body. The third emperor of the underworld's body trembled, and his entire body collapsed, transforming into a mass of underworld chi. Combined with his underworld domain, it enveloped heaven and earth. Everything within 100 miles of the nether domain was filled with nether chi. Spirit bodies were formed from the condensation of blood vessels, and they possessed some of the characteristics of blood vessels. Different spirit bodies had different mysteries and effects. Some spirit bodies were more attack-oriented, some were more defensive-oriented, and some were more speed-oriented. For example, the spiritual body of the third emperor of the underworld could transform into underworld chi and launch attacks. Whoosh! 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 Lu Ming was shrouded in the aura of the netherworld. There were bursts of air-piercing sounds all around him. Countless saber gleams slashed toward Lu Ming from an unknown direction. Fire element technique, lightning element technique. With a thought, Lu Ming converted the chaos concept into the fire concept and thunder concept. A long spear condensed from flames appeared in Lu Ming's right hand, and a long spear condensed from lightning appeared in his left hand. Whoosh! The long spear of flames swept out in all directions with a force that could wipe out an army. Fire and lightning were the natural enemies of underworld chi. Moreover, the fire concept and thunder concept were condensed from the fire concept and thunder concept. The power of the 2 concepts was even more shocking. As the long spear of flames swept out, the dark underworld chi exploded. The saber lights that were slashing at Lu Ming collapsed, one by one. Even the nether domain shook violently, as if it would explode at any time. Over there! Lu Ming's eyes were fixed in front of him. The long spear of lightning in his left hand shot out. Ah! A scream came from that place. Then the third emperor of the underworld appeared and retreated. There was a hole in his shoulder, and there were flashes of lightning flashing. How could this be? The Wang family head, the Jiang family head, and the others opened their eyes wide and looked at the scene in disbelief. The third emperor of the underworld was injured. An emperor was injured by Lu Ming. How could this be? Lu Ming could even injure an emperor. Whoosh! Lu Ming used the wind concept, and his body flashed. He quickly approached the third emperor of the underworld and threw out a punch. This punch was a combination of the earth element technique, fire element technique, and thunder element technique. The third emperor of the underworld's territory shook violently. It only lasted for a breath before it exploded. The terrifying power of the three martial skills of wills landed on the third emperor of the underworld's body. The third emperor of the underworld screamed in agony as his body flew far away. Half of his body exploded and his aura weakened. Run, run. There was only one thought in the Wang family head's mind, and that was to run. Lu Ming was too monstrous. How old was he? His combat strength was unimaginably strong. Even the third emperor of the underworld was not a match for him. After exchanging a few blows, he was almost dead. If he did not run, he would die. Wang Xingtian, I said, you will die today. Lu Ming's cold voice sounded. He used the wind concept and caught up with the Wang family head in a few flashes. No, please spare my life. Death was imminent. The Wang family head broke down and begged bitterly. He did not care about being a sovereign or his reputation. Compared to his life, these were nothing. Lu Ming looked at the Wang family head coldly. There was no pity in his eyes. Once upon a time, the Wang family head was a supreme existence in Lu Ming's eyes. He was a sovereign who could kill him with a single finger. But things had changed. Now, the Wang family head was nothing in front of Lin Fan. He could easily kill him. The world was unpredictable. Who could predict it? Lu Ming was growing rapidly. Unknowingly, Lu Ming had become a top figure in the divine wilderness continent. Those who once needed to look up to him had to look up to him now. Go to hell. An indifferent voice came from Lu Ming's mouth. His palm was like a knife as it struck out. No, if I die, you will die too. The Wang family head roared. Knowing that he was going to die, a ruthless look flashed in his eyes. The aura on his body became violent. He was going to self-destruct. Humph. Lu Ming snorted coldly. His palm suddenly exerted force. A phantom of the prison-suppressing monument flashed and suppressed the Wang family head. The Wang family head did not even have the chance to scream before he was crushed into pieces and died on the spot. In front of Lu Ming, he could not even self-destruct. It's your turn. Lu Ming looked at the head of the Jiang family and the head of the Wan family. Back then, in the Battle of Nine Dragon City, the family heads of the 6 ancient families had all attacked Lu Ming. Among them, the Jiang family head, the Luan family head, and the Wang family head all wanted to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming had always kept this grudge in his heart. Today he would kill them all. Run, run. The Jiang family head and the Luan family head desperately rushed into the sky because there were sovereigns there. But how fast was Lu Ming? He took a step and appeared behind them. He activated the prison-suppressing heaven skill and struck out twice. The 2 family heads were dead. Third Underworld Emperor. Chapter 1320. The third emperor of the Netherworld's expression changed, and he quickly retreated. Broken Mountain Martial Emperor, let's attack together! The third emperor of the Netherworld shouted. There was another martial emperor in the sky. He was the martial emperor of an overlord force in the central continent. Previously, he had sided with DE and attacked the World Academy together with the third emperor of the Netherworld. This time, only the 2 martial emperors from D. Tian Divine Palace had come. Kill! The Broken Mountain Martial Emperor was burly, and he was more than 3 meters tall. He held a large saber in his hand and slashed toward Lu Ming. At the same time, while the third emperor of the Netherworld was healing his injuries, he also attacked Lu Ming. The 2 martial emperors joined forces to attack Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming threw out 2 consecutive punches. His fists were filled with chaos. This was not the chaotic will. Lu Ming had combined the 5 martial techniques of the 5 wills. The first to bear the brunt were the 2 martial emperors' realms. The 2 realms covered Lu Ming's body and continuously consumed Lu Ming's attacks. Invisible attacks continued to attack Lu Ming. Lu Ming's punches caused the realms to vibrate. Lu Ming charged into the realms and fought with the two martial emperors. The Broken Mountain martial emperor was burly, and he was known for his attacks and strength. However, after exchanging one blow with Lu Ming, he was still forced to retreat. If not for the third emperor of the Netherworld's help, Lu Ming could have defeated the Broken Mountain martial emperor. Even so, Lu Ming still had the upper hand at the start of the battle. Lu Ming, that is Lu Ming. A group of people stood in the White Jade Palace of the World Academy. Among them, there were familiar figures that Lu Ming was familiar with, such as Kong Xian and Sandalwood Fairy. The Medicine King Valley did not have any martial emperors. In this chaotic world, it was difficult for them to protect themselves. However, the Medicine King Valley and the World Academy were on good terms. Hence, the Medicine King Valley had joined the World Academy and moved to the World Academy. The person who had spoken earlier was Kong Xian. His voice was filled with disbelief as he stared into the distance. It's Lu Ming. He didn't die. This is too shocking. Lu Ming can actually suppress emperors, and there are two emperors. Sandalwood Fairy's beautiful eyes were also wide open. Her voice was full of shock. Originally, when the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace launched an attack on the World Academy, they had already defended it for a few days. If this continued, it would only be a matter of time before they were breached. However, when they discovered that the army of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was in chaos, they thought that it was the Heaven Suppression Army or Xiaowan from the northern plains that had sent reinforcements. In the end, they discovered that there was only one person who had sent reinforcements, a young man. To their disbelief, they discovered that this youth was actually Lu Ming. It was rumored that Lu Ming had died in the Godly Ruins continent, and the battle prowess that Lu Ming displayed shocked them even more. What a rare talent! Beside Kong Xian, a white-haired elder sighed. This white-haired elder was one of the two great emperors of the World Academy. Dean, this is a rare opportunity. I feel that we should rush out and cooperate with Lu Ming to defeat the army of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Sandalwood Fairy suggested. Wait a minute. The Emperor of the World Academy said, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace has come to attack our World Academy. They won't only send two emperors. Perhaps there are still emperors hiding in the dark. Now that Lu Ming has the upper hand, we shouldn't be in a hurry to take action. It won't be too late to take action after we see the situation of the enemy. Kong Xian, Sandalwood Fairy, and the rest nodded. Indeed, now that Lu Ming had the upper hand, the one who should be anxious should be the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, not them. If the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace still had emperors hiding in the dark, they wouldn't be able to hold back for long and would take action. In the void tens of thousands of miles away in the north, Xiaowan and the rest were hiding and looking into the distance. Even though Lu Ming had already defeated Chu Luo, they still couldn't hide their astonishment when they saw Lu Ming's combat prowess. Mo, Ancestor, should we take action now and wipe out this group of people from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace? Mo Yi asked. Wait a minute. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace might have experts hiding in the dark. We should act according to the situation. Xiaowan said. Boom, boom, boom. High in the sky, three figures crisscrossed and engaged in an intense battle. Every time they clashed, there would be a muffled explosion. It was like the beginning of the universe and the beginning of the universe. The terrifying shock waves caused some people's eardrums to ring loudly. Their bodies trembled and they vomited blood. The army of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace retreated again and again, distancing themselves from the battlefield. Dang! Lu Ming executed the martial techniques of 5 different states. Its might was shocking. He punched out and struck the Broken Mountain Martial Monarch's battle saber. The Broken Mountain Martial Monarch's body shook violently and was sent flying. Following this, Lu Ming flipped his left hand and chopped down with his palm. The underworld chi churned, and the third underworld monarch was also sent flying. Kill! Lu Ming's body was as fast as lightning. In a flash, he dashed towards the third underworld monarch. terrifying attacks continuously rained down on the third underworld monarch. The third underworld monarch tried his best, but he could not block them. Wherever Lu Ming's fist passed, the underworld chi was destroyed. The third underworld monarch cried out in pain, and his body almost exploded. On the other side, the Broken Mountain martial monarch rushed over to help. Buzz! The lightning cauldron appeared above Lu Ming's head and smashed towards the Broken Mountain martial monarch. As Lu Ming's cultivation increased, the power of the lightning cauldron increased when he controlled it. The lightning cauldron and the Broken Mountain martial monarch's battle saber collided. Although the lightning cauldron was sent flying, it had blocked the Broken Mountain martial monarch's attack. That was enough. Kill! Lu Ming charged towards the third underworld monarch and punched out. The underworld chi exploded, and the third underworld monarch cried out in pain. Half of his body had exploded and his aura was weak. His injuries had worsened. The third underworld monarch's underworld body was mysterious and unpredictable. If it had been any other martial monarch, they would have been severely injured by Lu Ming's attack. Even so, the third underworld monarch was terrified. He turned around and ran. He was afraid. If this continued, he would be killed by Lu Ming. You can't escape. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. He walked towards the third underworld monarch step by step. At the same time, Lu Ming's mind was highly focused, and his spiritual senses spread out in all directions. He seemed to be waiting for something. After a few steps, Lu Ming closed in on the third underworld monarch. His terrifying attack was about to land on the third underworld monarch. Bastard, how dare you! At that moment, a cold shout came from the sky. As soon as the voice was heard, a golden sword light descended from the sky and slashed towards Lu Ming's head. Danger! Facing the golden sword light, Lu Ming's hair stood on end. His heart trembled as he sensed that he was in mortal danger. Roar! Without hesitation, the 9 dragons' bloodline appeared. Lu Ming performed the bloodline fusion and turned into 9 dragons. Boom! Boom! The 9 dragons stepped on each of their claws. Each of their claws was a fusion of 5 different wills, and they attacked the golden sword light. An ear-piercing sound came from the sky. The golden sword light was extremely sharp, and it could cut through everything. The attacks formed by the 5 different wills were broken by the golden sword light. The 9 dragons were shocked, and they could not help but retreat. They retreated for 1,000 miles before they could stabilize themselves. In the end, 3 of the 9 dragon claws were cut off. Chapter 13:21. What a powerful force! What a terrifying sword chi! Lu Ming was shocked. He had transformed into 9 dragons and performed a martial skill that combined 5 wills. Apart from the chaotic will, this was Lu Ming's strongest combat strength. However, he still could not resist the sword chi. He was pushed back 1,000 miles, and 3 of his dragon claws were cut off. The power of the golden sword chi was extremely terrifying. Whoosh! High up in the sky, a golden light flashed, and a figure appeared. It was an old man with thick bones and a burly figure. He wore a golden robe that fluttered in the wind, and he exuded a majestic aura. A terrifying aura radiated from the old man in the golden robe, causing the sky to tremble. Peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he looked extremely serious. The old man in the golden robe was at the same level as Xiaowan and Di. He was extremely powerful. The difference between each level of the Martial Royal Realm was huge. The difference between LV2 Martial Royal Realm and LV1 Martial Royal Realm was obvious. It was not difficult for a LV2 Martial Royal Realm to kill LV1 Martial Royal Realm cultivator, not to mention a peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm cultivator, Elder Di Hongcheng. The third emperor of the underworld and Martial Emperor Poshan were overjoyed when they saw the old man. His surname is Di. Lu Ming frowned. Xiaowan had said that there were two peak LV2 martial royal realm cultivators beside D, and they both had royal spiritual weapons. Lu Ming had a lot of questions in his heart. A peak second layer martial dominator realm cultivator was not as common as cabbages. One could easily find one. In the divine wilderness continent, there were only Xiaowan and De. Where did the two peak LV2 martial royal realm cultivators beside De come from? Moreover, they both had royal spiritual weapons. Now he knew that one of them had the same surname as D. What was going on? Rumor had it that Di Tian Divine Palace was built by Martial Emperor Di. At that time, there was only Martial Emperor Di, and no one had heard that he had a family with the same surname. Later on, Martial Emperor Di had a descendant, and the Di clan was born? Could this old man be Di Yi's descendant? Impossible. Lu Ming felt that this old man was even older than Di. Lu Ming had more questions in his heart. He felt that Di was more mysterious than he had imagined. Di Hongqing stood high up in the sky and looked down at Lu Ming. However, it was not difficult to see the astonishment and disbelief in his eyes. He seemed to be amazed by Lu Ming's age and combat strength. So you're Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it's not bad for you to have such cultivation and battle strength at your age. I think you're a talent. Why don't you join our Di family? As long as you perform well, the Di family won't mistreat you. Di Hongqing asked. His tone revealed a sense of superiority, as if he was looking down on others. This wasn't Di Hongqing's intention. It was as if he was born to be high and mighty, looking down on others. Lu Ming let out a faint laugh and stared at Di Hongqing instead of answering. After a while, Lu Ming said, You're not from the Godly Desolation continent, right? Or are you not from the Godly Desolation continent? Lu Ming had met all the geniuses of the Godly Desolation continent, and none of them had the surname Di. Di Hongqing was slightly startled, as if he had not expected Lu Ming to ask such a question all of a sudden. He then let out a hollow laugh and said, That's none of your business. Now, are you going to surrender or not? Surrender? Sure, but I have a condition. Give me Di's head, and I'll surrender. Lu Ming said with a calm smile. Impudent. Di Hongqing's expression turned dark as a murderous intent burst out from his body. He said in a cold voice, Lu Ming, I was planning to give you a chance since you're quite talented, but you didn't take it. I guess I'll have to send you on your way. Di Hongqing clenched his fist in the air, and a golden battle sword was formed. Sword Qi shot up into the sky. Slash! Di Hongqing shouted softly and slashed with his golden combat sword. A terrifying sword aura that was thousands of miles long split the sky and slashed toward Lu Ming. It was even more powerful than the previous attack. Primal Chaos! 9 dragons stepped into the air as Primal Chaos Qi surrounded Di Hongqing's body. Facing an expert like Di Hongqing, Lu Ming no longer hid his strength and unleashed it with all his might. Suppressing Hell Art. Lu Ming executed the Suppressing Hell Art as a dragon claw clawed at the golden sword light. The dragon claw was covered with the Primal Chaos intent. The Primal Chaos intent combined with the Suppressing Hell Art could unleash its full power. Boom! The dragon claw clashed with the golden sword light. It was as if the entire world was shaking, as if it was the end of the world. Half of the sky was filled with golden sword light, while the other half was filled with primal chaos. Di Hongqing and Lu Ming's figures were pushed back by an invisible force. They could not help but retreat simultaneously. How is this possible? The Broken Mountain Martial Dominator and the Third Underworld Emperor stared with their eyes wide open. They could not believe their eyes. Lu Ming had managed to block Di Hongqing's attack. Not only that, it seemed like they were on par with each other, as they were both pushed back. This meant that Lu Ming was able to stand his ground against Di Hongqing. Lu Ming had not used his full strength when he was fighting against them. Upon having this thought, they could feel a chill down their spines. If Lu Ming had used his full strength, wouldn't they be dead meat? Gulp! Gulp! Inside the white jade palace of the World Academy, Kong Xian, Sandalwood Fairy, the two martial dominators of the World Academy, and the rest of the experts swallowed their saliva with great difficulty. Their eyes were wide open as they stared into the distance. Sigh, the gap between us and Lu Ming is getting bigger. After a while, Kong Xian let out a sigh. His voice was filled with helplessness. Lu Ming is not on the same level as us to begin with. He is destined to be more brilliant and go further in the future. Sandalwood Fairy's eyes flickered with excitement. Indeed, he's already standing at the peak of the divine desolation continent at such a young age. I wonder how great his future will be. One of the martial dominators of the World Academy let out a sigh. In the northern sky, Xiaowan and the others stared with their eyes open wide. Chu Luo's figure trembled violently. He could not find any words after a long time. They had initially thought it was shocking enough that Lu Ming was able to defeat Chu Luo and defeat an ordinary martial dominator. However, they now realized that they had underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming was able to fight against a peak second-layer martial dominator realm cultivator. In other words, Lu Ming's strength was on par with Xiaowan's. Lu Ming, among the crowd, Yan Kuangtu was the most excited. He clenched his fists in excitement. I was right about him. Xiaowan's eyes flickered. He knew that he had made the right bet. Emperor's sword shattering the heavens. Di Hongqing's furious voice could be heard. He had been knocked back by Lu Ming. While he was astonished, it also triggered his murderous intent. Chapter 1322. The attack of a peak LV2 martial royal realm cultivator was earth-shattering and powerful. The third emperor of the underworld and martial emperor Pashan were terrified by the attack. They felt that they had no hope of being killed by the attack. Lu Ming, Kong Xian, and the others in the White Jade Palace, as well as Xiaowan and the others in the north, became nervous. Xiaowan, in particular, was ready to help. The combat strength of a peak LV2 martial royal realm cultivator is indeed terrifying. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes, and the 9 dragons twisted their bodies. They opened their mouths, and a devouring force burst out. At the same time, the illusory figure of the suppressing prison monument appeared in front of them. Boom! Once again, it clashed with the golden sword radiance, and a terrifying explosion occurred. The illusory figure of the suppressing prison monument was destroyed by the golden sword radiance. But the golden sword radiance also collapsed. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 9 dragons and Di Hongqiang retreated at the same time. This time, Di Hongqiang retreated a shorter distance, while Lu Ming retreated a longer distance. The 9 dragons' bodies were trembling slightly, and there were sword marks all over them. Light was shining on the 9 dragons' bodies. The bodies of the 9 dragons seemed to have become less solid and more illusory. Without becoming a martial emperor and a spiritual body, the power of your bloodline is limited. Let's see how you are going to fight me. Di Hongqing sneered, and his eyes were cold. The power of the bloodline was limited after all. The more intense the fight, the more bloodline power would be consumed. Once the power of the bloodline was used up, the bloodline fusion could not be maintained. Only when the power of the bloodline was recovered could the bloodline fusion be used again. It was obvious that Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline was about to be used up. Therefore, the 9 dragons were becoming illusory. I will kill you with this attack. Di Hongqing stepped forward, and the golden sword radiance became even more dazzling. Emperor's sword, break the world. Swoosh! The golden sword radiance slashed toward Lu Ming again, and it was filled with murderous intent. Di Hongqing wanted to kill Lu Ming with this attack. Puff! The 9 dragons' bloodline burst like a bubble. However, Lu Ming's real body did not appear. Instead, a stone tablet appeared. The suppressing prison monument. The prison suppressing steel expanded to the size of a mountain, emitting a blinding light. Below him, the word steel shone brightly. Whoa! The prison suppressing steel was covered with a layer of chaotic intent, which made it feel even heavier, as if it could suppress everything. The prison-suppressing steel suppressed the golden sword light. The second ninth grade divine bloodline. Di Hongqing narrowed his eyes. The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline collided with the golden sword light. The lower part of the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline was solid, indestructible, and indestructible. The prison-suppressing steel trembled and flew back. The golden sword light also collapsed in an instant. Di Hongqing was also pushed back by the counterattack. This time, Di Hongqing retreated even further than Lu Ming. This caused Di Hongqing's expression to turn extremely ugly. The prison-suppressing steel's bloodline is indeed stronger than the 9 dragons' bloodline. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Whoosh! At this moment, Di Hongqing's body seemed to have turned into a golden sword light, breaking through the void and rapidly approaching Lu Ming. Bring it on! Lu Ming's voice resounded from the prison-suppressing steel. The prison-suppressing steel glowed and charged towards Di Hongqing. Clang! The heavens and the earth exploded as the 2 figures retreated, then charged at each other again. Only the 2 figures could be seen clashing and exchanging blows. Explosions continued to sound in the sky. The shock waves from their exchange grew more and more terrifying, causing the spectators to retreat further and further. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged more than 10 blows. Although Lu Ming had a slight upper hand, it was only a slight upper hand. He couldn't defeat Di Hongqing for the time being. Damn it! Di Hongqing roared in his heart. He was a peak second-layer martial emperor, yet he couldn't even defeat a young man at the spiritual god realm. He felt extremely humiliated. Go to hell, Emperor Sword! Suddenly, Di Hongqing roared. A golden battle sword appeared above his head. This battle sword wasn't condensed from true origin. It was a true battle sword, a true spiritual weapon. An emperor spiritual weapon. It was an emperor spiritual weapon. As soon as the golden sword appeared, Di Hongqing held it in his hand, and an extremely terrifying sword qi slashed towards Lu Ming. An emperor spiritual weapon. What terrifying power! Lu Ming's heart couldn't help but tremble when facing this attack. An emperor spiritual weapon was the emperor of spiritual weapons. It was originally a weapon used by peak emperors, and only peak emperors could fully unleash the power of an emperor spiritual weapon. Sovereigns and even low-level emperors couldn't unleash the full power of an emperor spiritual weapon. Therefore, the higher one's cultivation was, the stronger the emperor's spiritual weapon would be. The power of a second-layer martial emperor using an emperor's spiritual weapon would naturally be stronger than a first-layer martial emperor. Lu Ming had a feeling that this sword was extremely dangerous. Power, power! Lu Ming roared in his heart. More power from the 3rd bloodline surged into Lu Ming's body, causing Lu Ming's heart to be filled with killing intent. But at this moment, he couldn't care less about it. The power of the 3rd bloodline and the chaotic intent enveloped the surface of the prison-suppressing steel, causing the steel's power to reach an unprecedented level. Clang! The golden sword light slashed the prison-suppressing steel, causing it to tremble violently. It was like a meteor as it was sent flying, smashing a huge hole in space. The chaotic intent on the prison-suppressing steel was nearly shattered. The prison-suppressing steel constantly buzzed and became somewhat transparent. With this attack, the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline power was about to be exhausted. Di Hongqing's strength skyrocketed with the emperor's spiritual weapon, and Lu Ming wasn't a match for him. Die! Di Hongqing charged towards Lu Ming. Not good attack. In the north, Xiao Wan's face changed as he took a step forward. Slash! A pitch-black, demonic saber appeared in Xiao Wan's hand. Demonic qi filled the sky as the saber light tore through space. A black saber light tore through space and slashed towards Di Hongqing. Emperor's spiritual weapon. The demonic saber in Xiao Wan's hand was also an emperor's spiritual weapon. When Xiao Wan had caused chaos in the world, He naturally had an emperor's spiritual weapon. He had hidden it in a secret place and had only taken it out recently. Xie Wan's attack caused Di Hongqing's face to change drastically. He couldn't be bothered to deal with Lu Ming. Di Hongqing spun around and slashed his golden sword at Xie Wan. Clang! The two exchanged blows and were evenly matched. Kill! Xie Wan charged towards Di Hongqing. Di Hongqing had no choice but to fight back. Huff! Lu Ming let out a long breath. A peak second-layer martial royal who had an emperor's spiritual weapon was too powerful. Lu Ming was still no match for him. Kill these bastards! Kill! At this moment, Yan Kuangtu, Chu Luo, and the barbarian emperor arrived and charged into the army of Di Tian Divine Palace. Not good. The Broken Mountain Martial Emperor and the Third Underworld Emperor's faces changed drastically. There were only two of them, and they were no match for Di Tian Divine Palace. Die. Chapter 13:23. As for Yan Kuangtu and Moe, they charged towards the army of the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace. With a single move, many experts were killed. Large numbers of corpses fell from the sky. Now is the time. Kill our way out. In the white jade palace of the World Academy, an emperor gave the order. Kill. The experts of the World Academy also charged out and surrounded the army of the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace. Not good. Run. Run. The army of the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace was instantly defeated and fled for their lives. It couldn't be helped. The emperors of the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace were all entangled. The experts of the World Academy, Moe, and the others were all emperors. Killing those below the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace was as easy as killing chickens. With a single slap, even supremes would die. Chaos. The army of the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, was in complete chaos. They only cared about running for their lives. Some of the supremes didn't even have the heart to continue fighting. They fled, frantically. You can't escape. The emperors of the World Academy were targeting these supremes. These supremes were killed one by one. This was a one-sided massacre. The battle didn't last for long. More than half of the army of the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, was killed. The ground below was covered with corpses. Those who escaped were those with weaker cultivation. No one was interested in killing them. Those with weaker cultivation couldn't affect the overall situation much. In the sky above the World Academy, there were only 3 battlefields left. Xie Wan against Di Hongqing, the Barbarian Emperor against the Broken Mountain Emperor, Chu Luo against the Third Emperor of the Underworld. Let's end this quickly. Let's attack together. Lu Ming's voice rang out. At the same time, he charged towards the Third Emperor of the Underworld. At this moment, although Lu Ming's bloodline power was exhausted and he couldn't perform bloodline fusion, Lu Ming could still use the chaotic intent. Its power was still terrifying. Boom! Lu Ming approached the Third Emperor of the Underworld and punched out. This punch carried the concept of primal chaos, crushing the Sky Dome. No! The Third Emperor of the Underworld felt a fatal danger. He shouted in fear and transformed into the Qi of the Underworld, wanting to escape. But under the chaos concept, everything was futile. Lu Ming's fist landed, and the Third Emperor of the Netherworld screamed miserably. The aura of the Netherworld dissipated, and the body of the Third Emperor of the Netherworld reappeared. However, it had been torn into pieces, and his spiritual deity had also dissipated under this punch. Hiss, hiss, hiss! Chu Luo and the other rulers gasped in shock. Ordinary first-layer martial emperors were so weak against Lu Ming that they were killed with a single punch. Scram! The Broken Mountain martial monarch was almost scared to death upon seeing this. But the barbarian emperor blocked his path. Moe, Yan Kuangtu, and the others also attacked. Martial Emperor Pashan had nowhere to run. Lu Ming killed the third king of the underworld and then headed towards the Broken Mountain King. The Broken Mountain martial emperor was terrified. Di Hongqing, save me! The Broken Mountain martial emperor shouted and asked Di Hongqing for help. But Di Hongqing was busy fighting with Xiaowan, and he could only protect himself. Xiaowan was a rank 3 martial emperor when he was at his peak, but he had been suppressed by the suppressing prison monument for 30,000 years, and his origin had been damaged. That was why he could not recover to his peak. But he had rich combat experience. Although his cultivation level was the same as Di Hongqing's, he was still stronger than Di Hongqing. Di Hongqing could only protect himself. He did not have the time to save martial monarch Pashan. How dare you go against the emperor family? All of you will die. In the end, Di Hongqing roared loudly and exchanged a blow with Xiaowan. After that, he transformed into a ray of light and shot towards the distance. He had actually fled. Xiaowan did not chase after him. Although his combat strength was slightly stronger than Di Hongqing's, it was not enough for him to kill Di Hongqing. No! The Broken Mountain martial monarch screamed in despair when he saw Di Hongqing running away. Lu Ming was not far away from the Broken Mountain martial monarch, and a cold, murderous intent enveloped him. Don't kill me! I surrender! I surrender! The Broken Mountain martial monarch screamed. He had seen what had happened to the third emperor of the underworld. If he did not surrender, he would die. Surrender is fine, but stop resisting and let us seal your cultivation. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming did not have to kill the Broken Mountain King. After all, the Broken Mountain King was a martial royal realm expert. If he surrendered and helped them, it would be beneficial for them. The Broken Mountain martial monarch was helpless, and he could only give up resisting. He knew that even if he tried his best to resist, he would be killed. He would rather trust Lu Ming. Seal his cultivation, Lu Ming ordered. The barbaric emperor Chu Luo and Mo Yi immediately joined forces and sealed the Broken Mountain martial monarch's cultivation. The battle had finally come to an end. The Emperor Divine Palace had suffered a crushing defeat. Almost all of the experts that they had sent had died. Only Di Hongqing had managed to escape. The third emperor of the underworld had died, and the Broken Mountain martial monarch had surrendered. They had suffered a great loss. Lu Ming, thank you. The 2 deans of the World Academy came to Lu Ming and cupped their fists at Lu Ming to express their gratitude. Deans, you are too kind. Brother Kong, Xian, and I are friends. Lu Ming will not sit back and do nothing when the World Academy is in trouble. Lu Ming said, Brother Lu, Kong Xian and Sandalwood Fairy came together and bowed at Lu Ming. They had mixed feelings. They still remembered that not long after the Battle of Providence had ended, Lu Ming had changed his name to Lu Shaoqing and had just arrived at the Central Continent. At that time, Lu Ming's combat strength was similar to theirs. His cultivation was not even as high as theirs. However, in just a few years, there had been earth-shattering changes. Lu Ming's cultivation and combat strength had far surpassed theirs. He stood at the peak of the divine region. They might not be able to catch up with Lu Ming in their lifetime. Brother Kong, Fairy, how have you been? Lu Ming said with a smile. Then he looked at the 2 deans of the World Academy and said, Deans, now that the world is in chaos, where do you plan to go? Sigh, we have not thought about it. The taller deans sighed. In World Academy, there were those who cultivated the martial path and those who cultivated the inscription path. The 2 deans also cultivated the martial path and the inscription path, respectively. The taller deans were martial arts, while the thinner deans were inscription Dao. How about this? Why don't the World Academy form an alliance with us and go to the Northern Plains together? This way, we will be stronger and have more confidence to fight against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Lu Ming suggested. The 2 deans of the World Academy looked at each other, then cupped their fists together and said, Lu Ming, actually, we have the same idea. That's good. Haha, let's not delay. We will set off for the Northern Plains now. If we are late, the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace will come for us. Lu Ming said, All right, let's set off immediately. Everyone can enter the White Jade Palace. The White Jade Palace is a secret treasure, the taller deans said. All right, Lu Ming nodded, and everyone flew into the white jade palace. Chapter 13:24. Ever since he saw Lu Ming's battle prowess, he had a plan in mind. In the past, he had formed an alliance with Lu Ming because he saw Lu Ming's potential. His condition for forming an alliance with Lu Ming was that Lu Ming could help him when he joined the Yuanlu sect in the future. He had been suppressed for 30,000 years. All of his family and friends had turned to dust. He no longer cared about the divine wilderness continent. In his eyes, there was only cultivation, realm, and the pursuit of higher martial arts. He had no interest in power. Therefore, when he saw Lu Ming's current battle prowess, he planned to slowly hand over the power to Lu Ming. He only needed to support Lu Ming. Lu Ming obviously thought of this too. He glanced at Xiao Wan, but did not say anything. Lu Ming now had friends, family, and loved ones. If he wanted to protect these people, he needed strength and power. Since Xiao Wan wanted to give in, he would not be polite. The group entered the White Jade Palace. The White Jade Palace shone and tore open the space. They entered the alternate space and headed to the northern plains. Not long after, the space above the 100 Beast tribe in the northern plains cracked open and the White Jade Palace appeared. After a while, the meeting hall of the 100 Beast tribe was filled with people. Almost all of the upper echelons of the northern plains and the experts of the World Academy were present. Xiao Wan and Lu Ming were still sitting at the highest seats. Many people looked at Lu Ming with respect and awe. The news of Lu Ming's battle at the World Academy had spread. He had the ability to fight against a peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm expert and kill a LV1 Martial Royal Realm expert with ease. With such battle prowess, he stood at the peak of the divine wilderness continent and looked down on everyone. Moreover, Lu Ming was so young and his cultivation was only at the spiritual god realm. No one could predict Lu Ming's future and Lu Ming's potential. They looked at Lu Ming with respect and awe. Everyone, we've received news that DE of the Empyrean Divine Palace is going to form an alliance with the ancient sacred dynasty's Xie clan. After everyone was seated, an emperor from the World Academy revealed a shocking piece of news. As soon as this news came out, everyone gasped. What? The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace wants to ally with the Xie clan? Is that true? This is troublesome. The great meeting hall was instantly filled with clamor. It's absolutely true. In a month's time, both sides will hold an alliance ceremony in the holy city. The burly emperor from the World Academy said. The arena fell silent again. Everyone frowned, their faces solemn. Currently, the most powerful force in the divine region was undoubtedly the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, which was led by D. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace gathered the forces of the eastern wilderness and the southern underworld. Furthermore, some of the overlord forces in the central continent had also surrendered. Most importantly, there were 3 pinnacle experts in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. They were like 3 huge mountains that pressed down on everyone's hearts. Other than the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace, the other strongest forces were the ancient Saint Dynasty's Xie family and their allies, as well as the Heaven Suppression Army and their allies. Lastly, there was the Northern Plains. The Western Desert had always stayed out of the conflict and did not participate in it. Hence, they were excluded. Among the 4 great forces, the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was the strongest. However, the Imperial Xie family had a legacy of 1,000,000 years. In terms of foundation, they were definitely the strongest. No one could see through them clearly, and they could not be underestimated. And now, these 2 formidable existences were about to join hands. How could the other factions stand a chance against them? Although the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was strong, they did not have enough foundation. Hence, they had fewer emperors. Even with DE, there were 2 pinnacle martial emperors in the southern underworld, as well as some emperors who had surrendered. There were only slightly more than 10 of them. In terms of this, the Xie family and their allies, as well as the Heaven Suppression Army and their allies, had more emperors than the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Even in the northern plains, there were more than 10 rulers in total. Although the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was strong, they did not have many emperors. The other forces could still contend against them. However, the alliance between the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xia family could make up for this shortcoming. At that time, they would be able to dominate the world. Regardless of whether it was the Heaven Suppression Army or the Northern Plains, they would not be able to contend against them. At the thought of this, everyone's hearts were heavy. Why would the Xia family and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace form an alliance? Everyone could not understand. With the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's current momentum, where would the Xia family stand when they unified the Divine Wilderness in the future? There must be some kind of deal that no one knew about. Now, what should we do? Someone asked. There was silence. No one spoke. Even Xiaowan and Lu Ming were frowning. Let's talk about our opinions. Let's discuss it. After a while, Lu Ming spoke. That's right. Let's talk about it. Xiaowan said. At that moment, everyone spoke one after another, expressing their own opinions. Someone suggested that they should take the initiative to attack. They wanted to attack one side first and fight a decisive battle with them to destroy the alliance between the two sides. However, someone immediately objected. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was strong. The three pinnacle forces were invincible. It was not wise to attack the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. As for the Xia family, they were in charge of the Holy City. They had a long history and a deep foundation. The Holy City had never been breached before. Attacking the Xia family was also very dangerous. These people wanted to defend the Northern Plains. Everyone was arguing with each other. In the end, they finally reached a consensus to defend Northern Plains and increase their strength. Their hope was Xiaowan and Lu Ming. Xiaowan was originally a third-layer martial royal expert. However, his origin was injured and he needed time to recover. If they defended and did not attack, the situation would change when Xiaowan recovered to the third-layer martial royal realm. They would have the upper hand with their pinnacle forces. There was also Lu Ming. Lu Ming was still young, and his cultivation was only at the consummate spiritual god realm. If Lu Ming's cultivation improved, wouldn't he be even stronger? He would be able to change the situation. Therefore, the final result of the discussion was to defend and wait to increase their strength. Lu Ming did not object to this. What he lacked now was time. As long as he had time, his pure spirit body would improve every day. His strength would also grow stronger. Furthermore, if he were to rank up to the Nine Heavens Supreme Realm, the chaotic would transform into the chaotic domain, allowing his strength to skyrocket. At that time, he would not be afraid even if he were to face a second-layer martial royal realm expert with a martial royal weapon. In the end, Lu Ming and Xiaowan decided on the plan. By the way, Brother Yan. At that instant, Lu Ming glanced at Yan Kuangtu and said, Where's Senior by Shijin? Senior Du Songjue and the others? Why haven't I seen them? Logically speaking, by Shijin Du Songjue, and the rest would definitely take the cross-territory teleportation formation to discuss matters, since Lu Ming had returned and such a major event had happened in the divine wilderness continent. However, ever since Lu Ming returned, they had not been seen. After Lu Ming spoke, Yan Kuangtu's expression changed tremendously. His gaze became complicated as he hesitated to speak. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. As he expected, when Lu Ming glanced at Xiaowan, the barbaric emperor, Chu Luo, and the others, he saw their complicated gazes too. They did not dare to look at Lu Ming. Chapter 13:25. Brother Yan, what's going on? Lu Ming glanced at Yan Kuangtu and asked with a serious tone. His eyes were glowing as he stared at Yan Kuangtu. Yan Kuangtu's expression changed. In the end, he let out a long sigh and said, Lu Ming, I didn't want to tell you for the time being, but since your combat power has reached such a level, there's no harm in telling you. The yin-yang formation of the Talisman Puppet Sect has been destroyed by Martial Emperor D.E. What? Yan Kuangtu's words were like thunder that echoed in Lu Ming's heart. Lu Ming had heard a series of important news as soon as he returned. Then he heard that the World Academy had been attacked, so he immediately rushed to the World Academy. He did not have time to ask about the Talisman Puppet Sect, but he did not expect such a change. In Lu Ming's mind, the Talisman Puppet Sect could still hold on for a while. Therefore, Lu Ming did not ask. A few months ago, Martial Emperor Di attacked. The first was the Myriad Demon Valley, which was easily destroyed. The second was the Talisman Puppet Sect. Although the Yin and Yang formation of the Talisman Puppet Sect was powerful and had no problem blocking Di alone, Di and two other experts at the peak of the second LV of the Martial Emperor realm attacked together with Emperor spiritual weapons. The Yin and Yang formation couldn't block them at all. At that time, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and Master personally controlled the Yin and Yang formation in order to buy time for the others to move. In the end, most people moved to the northern plains, but Master and Bai Shijin fell into Di Yi's hands. Yan Kuangtu explained in detail. Most of the disciples of the Talisman Puppet Sect, Lu Ming's parents, Hua Qi, and the others had moved to the northern plain through the teleportation formation. However, Supreme Nine Sons, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others had fallen into Di's hands. Commander Lu, don't worry too much. Since Di did not attack at that time and spared their lives, I don't think he will kill them so soon. Someone advised Lu Ming. Indeed, sparing them instead of killing them must be useful. They should not be in danger for the time being. The others also advised. At this moment, many people's expressions changed, and a sound transmission jade talisman appeared in their hands. There must be some important news. Some of the higher-ups received the news at the same time. They scanned the jade talisman with their spiritual awareness. How could this be? Yan Kuangtu exclaimed as soon as he saw the sound transmission jade talisman. Because he was too excited, he could not suppress the Zhenyuan in his body. A powerful aura erupted from his body, and a layer of burning flames spread out from his body, causing the temperature in the hall to rise sharply. Damn it! Damn it! Following that, the others also roared angrily. Their expressions turned ugly, including Xiaowan and the other rulers. What is it? What's going on? Lu Ming glanced around, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. He had just returned, so naturally no one had sent him any news. General Lu! Many people looked at Lu Ming, wanting to say something but hesitating. Lu Ming, Yan Kuangtu clenched his fists tightly and his eyes turned red. Those were the flames of anger. His body trembled slightly because of his anger. What's going on? Speak! Lu Ming shouted angrily. His eyes were like lightning, and his body emitted a powerful aura. However, everyone looked at each other and still did not speak. Let me see it for myself. Lu Ming moved and pounced on a supreme being. That supreme being did not have the slightest strength to resist. The sound transmission jade talisman in his hand was snatched away by Lu Ming. After Lu Ming scanned the contents of the sound transmission jade talisman with a spiritual awareness, his expression changed drastically. He became incomparably ugly, and his body emitted a cold, murderous intent. Di Xie Clan! Lu Ming spat out these words. They were so cold that it sent chills down everyone's spine. There was only one message in the jade talisman. Just now, the Xie clan of the ancient Saint Dynasty and Di Tian Divine Palace had jointly sent out a message. A month later, the Xie clan and Di Tian Divine Palace would hold an alliance ceremony in the sacred city. At that time, the traitors Xiajiang, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and others would be killed and their blood would be used as a sacrifice. This short message caused Lu Ming's murderous intent to reach its peak. Everyone's gaze fell on Lu Ming. This was because everyone knew that Lu Ming was the Zongzi of the Talisman Puppet Sect and had a close relationship with Supreme Jiang. Lu Ming would definitely not sit back and do nothing. Xie Clan Di, since this is the case, then kill them. When the last word was spoken, Lu Ming's body emitted a strong battle intent. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the void and look at the sacred city that was billions of miles away. Lu Ming, you want to go to the sacred city? Don't be rash. This must be a scheme by D.E. and the Xie clan. After the battle at the World Academy, D.E. must have known your combat strength. He must be wary of you, so he sent out this message. His goal is to lure you to the sacred city and kill you. You must not be fooled. Xie Wan hurriedly said, Since this is the case, then let them do as they wish. A month later, I will make a trip to the sacred city. Lu Ming's gaze was cold as he said, No, General Lu. With our current strength, we are still no match for Tian Divine Palace and the Xie clan. That's right. Moreover, it is even more dangerous in the sacred city. The others tried to persuade Lu Ming. A month later, the sacred city would undoubtedly be a tiger's den. It would be extremely dangerous to go there. It's not impossible for us to fight. Originally, I wanted to wait for a period of time to prepare. Since this is the case, let's bring forward the battle. Lu Ming's voice was cold and his eyes were filled with determination. He had to save Supreme Jiang by Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others. Otherwise, even if he killed D.E. and the others in the future, what would be the point? At this moment, outside the World Academy's Universal Jade Wall, the space suddenly rippled, following which a figure stepped out from the space. If anyone saw this, they would definitely exclaim. This was because he was Lu Ming. To be more precise, he was Lu Ming's second body. Lu Ming's second body had received the inheritance of the heavenly profound saint and had been cultivating the way of inscription. Now, Lu Ming had finally summoned him. D.E. and the Xie clan, let's fight. Lu Ming's second body whispered with a cold light in his eyes, following which he took a step forward. The space automatically split open and the second body disappeared. In the meeting hall of the 100 Beast tribe, bring forward the battle. General Lu, no, we're not strong enough. That's right. D.E. and the other 2 experts of LV2 Martial Royal Realm alone are unstoppable. General Lu, this matter needs to be considered at length. The others tried to persuade Lu Ming. Most importantly, D.E. and the other 2 experts of LV2 Martial Royal Realm had royal spiritual weapons. They were too strong. Ordinary Royal Realm experts would only be killed if they faced them. How could they resist them? A month later, in Sacred City, these experts would definitely all be present. They were waiting for Lu Ming. It would be unwise to fight with them at this time. Lu Ming raised his hand and the hall quieted down. Since we are going, we should fight a battle that we are confident in. Since we are going to save people, how can I, Lu Ming, sacrifice your lives for nothing? Chapter 1326. Greetings, Master. As soon as the figure appeared, he bowed to Lu Ming. An emperor. This is the sea subduing divine ape? It is indeed the sea subduing divine ape. A commotion broke out in the main hall. Lu Ming was accompanied by an emperor and a sea subduing divine ape. The sea subduing divine ape was acting respectfully beside Lu Ming. Apparently, it had been subdued by Lu Ming. Although the crowd was amazed that Lu Ming had subdued a being like the sea subduing divine ape, the appearance of the sea subduing divine ape could not change the outcome of the battle. The sea subduing divine ape was equivalent to having an ordinary emperor. Lu Ming smiled as his glabella lit up. Another figure appeared beside Lu Ming. This time it was Tu Qian. Everyone's gaze fell on Tu Qian. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out from Tu Qian's body. Is that a puppet? It's really a puppet. What a terrifying aura. It is equivalent to a peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm. Gosh, it's true. Its aura is as strong as the chaotic sky divine apes. Tu Qian's appearance caused an uproar. Everyone was astonished. When everyone looked at Lu Ming, the awe in their eyes intensified. Not only was Lu Ming's combat strength powerful, but he also had such an expert by his side. Their combined strength was terrifying. He is Tu Qian. Everyone can see that he is a puppet. His cultivation is equivalent to a peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm expert. He can resist a peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm expert, Lu Ming said. But he has an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Someone said. Who says he doesn't have one? Lu Ming smiled as his palm glowed. A giant axe appeared in his hand and flew toward Tu Qian. That's an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Some people's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Lu Ming's methods were simply endless. First, there were powerhouses like the sea-subduing divine ape and Tu Qian. Now, he could even take out a ruler's spiritual weapon. Some people knew that the Emperor's spirit pagoda in Yan Kuangtu's hands belonged to Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming had taken out another Emperor's spirit weapon. Many people were speechless. It was normal for Lu Ming to do incredible things. Lu Ming, Tu Qian, can deal with an expert of the second layer of the martial Emperor realm. I can deal with one, but there is still one left. Xiao Wan spoke with a solemn expression. Leave the other one to me. Lu Ming said, his voice full of confidence. You! Xiao Wan was slightly taken aback. The others were stunned as well. Although Lu Ming was strong, comparable to a peak second-layer martial royal realm expert, Lu Ming was no longer a match for him once he had a Spirit King weapon. Moreover, it was obvious that Lu Ming did not have a suitable Spirit King weapon. An Emperor's Spirit King weapon must be compatible with the user's attributes in order to unleash its power. Most importantly, even if Lu Ming had a suitable Spirit King weapon, it would be useless. The reason why an Emperor's Spirit King weapon was so powerful was that the user could activate the realm of the Spirit King weapon. To activate the realm of the Spirit King weapon, one must at least comprehend the embryonic form of the realm. Lu Ming's cultivation had not reached the sovereign realm. Therefore, even if he had a suitable Spirit King weapon, Lu Ming could not unleash its power. In that case, how could Lu Ming block an expert at the peak of the second-level martial Emperor realm? At this moment, Lu Ming raised his head and looked at the door. Buzz! At the door, the space rippled and a figure suddenly appeared. It was a young man with a slender figure and a handsome face. He was wearing a white robe embroidered with strange patterns. His temperament was ethereal like an immortal. Lu, General Lu? What's going on? Most of the people were stunned as they stared at the figure at the entrance with their mouths agape. Yes, it was Lu Ming's second body, Ming Lian, at the door. Everyone's spiritual consciousness scanned Ming Lian's second body, and they were even more shocked. Ming Lian's second body's aura was exactly the same as Lu Ming's. They were clearly the same person. Except for Yan Kuangtu and a few others, everyone was dumbfounded. How could there be two Lu Ming? Moreover, the aura of the Lu Ming who appeared later was too shocking. The vast pressure filled the hall and made everyone feel great pressure. A ruler. This was the might of a ruler. Yes, Lu Ming's second body had received the inheritance of the heavenly profound saint and cultivated hard every day. Finally, not long ago, he became a 9th-level inscriptionist and became an emperor. Ming Lian's second body had just broken through. Lu Ming had planned to let Ming Lian's second body stabilize for a while, but now he had to call it back in advance. He's me and I'm him, Lu Ming's main body said with a smile. Ming Lian's second body nodded at Lu Ming and took a step forward. His body shrank rapidly and rushed into Lu Ming's glabella, sitting cross-legged in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Many people were dumbfounded and still hadn't come to their senses. Was this Lu Ming's doppelganger? Lu Ming actually had a doppelganger that was equivalent to an emperor. Lu Ming was becoming more and more unfathomable in everyone's hearts. Leave the other expert at the peak of LV2 Martial Royal Realm to me, Lu Ming said. However, Xiao Wan and the others still looked serious. Lu Ming, the sacred city, is the headquarters of the Xie family. They have a deep and unfathomable foundation. No one knows what means they have, but according to my speculation, there are definitely many Emperor's spiritual weapons, and it's very likely that there are also people at the peak of LV2 Martial Royal Realm. Xiao Wan said, 30,000 years ago, Xiaowan had fought with the Xie family, so he was very clear about the Xie family's methods. Back then, Xiaowan had dominated the world with his cultivation at the peak of LV3 martial royal realm. It could be said that no one could defeat him, but in the end, he was still suppressed by the Xie family. Although the Xie family seemed to have declined, they still couldn't be underestimated. Lu Ming nodded. This battle was very important, as it concerned everyone's lives and the future of the divine wilderness continent. It was something that they had to pay attention to. Moreover, even if we're not weak in terms of strength, the Xie family and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace have teamed up, and they have many emperors. We're no match for them. Xiaowan added. The others fell into deep thought. That was indeed the case. Their overall battle prowess was still a far cry from the Xie clan and the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. In terms of strength, I still have a trump card. It won't be a problem for me to block 2 experts at the peak of LV2 Martial Royal Realm. As for overall strength, we'll have to find allies. Don't forget that the Divine Army is more anxious than us. Lu Ming said with a smile, as if he had a card up his sleeve. Xiaowan's eyes flickered as he said, That's right. If that's the case, with the help of the Divine Army, we'll be able to fight. Lu Ming, I'll go with you to the Divine Army later. We'll decide the outcome of this battle. We'll definitely win this battle. Lu Ming's voice was filled with confidence. We'll definitely win. The others were influenced by Xiaowan's words. Chapter 13:27. After the meeting ended, Lu Ming immediately went to see his parents, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. The people who had retreated from the Talisman Puppet sect were all settled in the 100 Beast tribe. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping were naturally overjoyed to see Lu Ming. Li Ping could not stop her tears from flowing. When the experts of the God Gate came and announced Lu Ming's death, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping naturally heard the news. It was as if they had been struck by lightning, and the 2 elders almost could not take it. However, they had a feeling that Lu Ming was not dead and should still be alive. Indeed, they had heard the news that Lu Ming had returned and his cultivation had reached an unbelievable level. He could stand shoulder to shoulder with the top experts of the divine wilderness continent. The 2 of them were extremely confident and excited. When Lu Ming saw that the 2 elders were fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. He chatted with the 2 elders for half a day before leaving. In a secret room, Lu Ming's main body and second body sat opposite each other. Lu Ming's main body waved his hand, and various spiritual materials flew out. Fire spirit root, royal bloodstone, earth emperor essence, they were all precious spiritual materials for refining the nirvana elixir. Lu Ming planned to let the second body refine the nirvana elixir. Lu Ming had already collected all the supplementary spiritual materials for the nirvana elixir. The most difficult to collect were the 7 main spiritual materials. When he was in the Divine Ruins continent, Lu Ming had already collected 6 of them. He was still lacking the last one, the star anise mysterious ice grass. However, he did not expect that when he was fighting for the pure spirit body, Lu Ming would kill the purple gold-robed elder from the sea-suppressing marshal's residence and find the star anise mysterious ice grass in his storage ring. In this way, he had gathered all 7 main spiritual materials and could start refining the nirvana elixir. Ming Lian's second body waved his hand and a pill furnace appeared. Then all the materials for the nirvana elixir flew towards the second body. Lu Ming's main body moved and appeared at the side. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate. Inscription refined the second body. His fingers danced rapidly and endless inscriptions appeared. They wrapped around all the spiritual materials and began to refine them. A heavenly profound saint was in existence that had become a saint through the Tao of inscription. Regardless of whether it was formations, refining weapons, or refining pills, they were all extremely profound. Lu Ming's second body had obtained the inheritance of the heavenly profound saint and became a sovereign. Naturally, his refining skills were also unfathomable. Golden flames of inscription appeared, wrapping all kinds of spiritual materials and beginning to refine. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In the past 3 days, the entire divine wilderness continent had been shaken by 2 pieces of news. On the first day, the legendary peerless genius Lu Ming, who had died in the godly ruins continent, had returned. As soon as he came back, he participated in the World Academy battle. In this battle, Lu Ming displayed astonishing battle prowess. With his cultivation at the spirit god realm, he could easily kill emperors and fight experts at the peak of the second layer of the martial emperor realm. As soon as the news spread, it was like a magnitude 10 earthquake, causing a huge uproar. Countless cultivators in the divine wilderness continent were dumbfounded. They simply could not believe it. Soon after, another piece of news was released. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace would form an alliance with the ancient Saint Dynasty Xie clan in a month's time in the Holy City. At that time, they would kill Supreme Nine Yang by Shurjin and the others and use their blood as a sacrifice. The news also caused a huge uproar when it was released. Some people who knew the inside story could tell that something unusual was going on. Supreme Nine Yang by Shurjin and the others had a close relationship with Lu Ming. For the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan to release this news at this time, it was obviously related to Lu Ming. Some people guessed that this was most likely to lure Lu Ming out to the Holy City and then kill Lu Ming. This was an open scheme, not a conspiracy. Even if the whole world knew the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan's goal, Lu Ming would still go if he had to, unless he did not care about the lives of Supreme Nine Yang and the others. It seems like the divine wilderness continent is going to change. There will be a shocking battle in the Holy City. Some people sighed and paid attention to the situation. At this time, Lu Ming received a voice transmission saying that someone wanted to see him. Lu Ming's main body came out of the secret chamber and met the person who wanted to see him. It turned out to be Bai Qi Shui, Huan Zhen Jimai, and the other geniuses of the Talisman Puppet Sect. Greetings, Zongzi. When they saw Lu Ming, Huan Zhen, Bai Qi Shui, and the others, they bowed respectfully and lowered their heads. Qi Shui, Brother Huan, what are you doing? We are all friends, so there is no need to be so polite. Lu Ming waved his hand, and an invisible force lifted Huan Zhen and the others up, preventing them from bowing. The few of them had mixed feelings. They knew that Lu Ming's current cultivation level had far surpassed theirs. Among them, Huan Zhen, who had the strongest cultivation, was only a grade 7 inscription master and had not broken through to grade 8. Bai Qi Shui had obtained the inheritance of a grade 9 inscription master back then, and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. However, he was still slightly weaker than Huan Zhen. Lu Ming, we are here to beg you. You must save Master and the others. Bai Qi Shui's eyes were filled with tears, and his expression was bleak. Sigh, Lu Ming, we are useless. We can't save Master and the others. We can only rely on you now. Huan Zhen sighed. Ever since the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family had formed an alliance to kill Lu Ming and the others, Huan Zhen, Bai Qi Shui, and the others had panicked. At this critical moment, they could only think of Lu Ming. Therefore, they came to find Lu Ming together. Although they knew that it would be dangerous to save Bai Shurjin and the others, they had no other choice. Qi Shui, Brother Huan, don't worry. Lu Ming is indebted to the seniors. Lu Ming will definitely not let anything happen to them. Lu Ming said with a resolute gaze. Lu Ming's words seemed to be infectious, calming the anxious hearts of Bai Qi Shui and the others. Soon, Bai Qi Shui and the others bid farewell and left. Before leaving, they forgot to take a look at Lu Ming. Bai Qi Shui's heart was extremely complicated. She once had some feelings for Lu Ming, but now the distance between her and Lu Ming was extremely far. They were people from 2 completely different worlds. She could only bury the slight ripple in her heart deep down. After Bai Qi Shui and the others left, Lu Ming received news that someone had come to visit him. Fatty, Ting Ting, Senior Demonic Sky. Out of Lu Ming's expectations, The ones who came this time were actually Fatty Kong Jean, Wan Tingting, and the demonic Sky Sovereign. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Ever since the end of the War of Providence, Fatty and Wan Tingting had left with the demonic Sky Sovereign to cultivate. There had been no news of them for many years. Lu Ming did not expect that Fatty and the others would come here to look for him. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, long time no see. I really missed you. Upon seeing Lu Ming, the Fatty laughed heartily and gave Lu Ming a bear hug right away. Fatty, your figure has become more voluptuous, Lu Ming said with a smile. Fatty's figure was indeed fatter than before. Ha! Fatty laughed awkwardly. Lu Ming, you're incredible now. You can even kill an emperor. The gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. Fatty quickly changed the topic. You're not bad either. Lu Ming punched Fatty. After not seeing him for a few years, Fatty's progress was also great. He had already reached the 5th level of the spirit god realm. It should be noted that Fatty had only awakened an 8th divine bloodline. Then Lu Ming greeted Wan Tingting and the demonic Sky Sovereign. By the way, Fatty, where have you been all these years? Chapter 1328. We followed Master and went overseas. Then Fatty roughly talked about his experiences over the years. Back then, after the Battle of Providence ended, they followed the demonic Sky Divine Emperor to cultivate overseas. Fatty had obtained some fortuitous encounters in the Battle of Providence. In addition, he also had some fortuitous encounters overseas. Over the years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the 5th level of the spirit god realm. His speed of improvement was faster than many geniuses who had awakened the 9th level of the divine realm. Even Wan Tingting had reached the peak of the spirit embryo realm. This time, when they returned, they discovered that the divine wilderness continent had changed beyond recognition. Moreover, they had also heard news about Lu Ming and the alliance between the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. They deduced that Lu Ming would definitely fight against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. Therefore, they rushed over to help Lu Ming. Lu Ming was quite touched. He immediately arranged for Fatty, the demonic Sky Divine Emperor, and the others to stay. With the addition of the demonic Sky Divine Emperor, there was another Divine Emperor on their side, which was also a great help. Then, Lu Ming's main body returned to the secret alchemy room. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. The Nirvana pills were finally about to be refined successfully. Lu Ming's main body ended his cultivation and opened his eyes. A rich medicinal fragrance came from the alchemy furnace. Open. After a while, the second body shouted softly. The alchemy furnace opened, and an even richer medicinal fragrance came out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The moment the alchemy furnace opened, 9 milky white rays of light flew out from the furnace. Collect! The second body waved his hand, and dense inscriptions appeared in the sky, wrapping around the 9 rays of light. Within the light, there were 9 milky white pills with strange patterns on them. The pills jumped in the inscriptions as if they had spirituality. The second body took out a jade bottle and put away all 9 pills. Success! The Nirvana pills were refined successfully. Lu Ming was overjoyed to obtain a total of 9 Nirvana pills. Although the Nirvana pills were useless to him, they were priceless treasures to other cultivators who had not awakened the 9th level of the divine realm bloodline. Whoosh! The second body entered the glabella of the main body and disappeared. Lu Ming put away the Nirvana pills and left the secret chamber. Not long after, Lu Ming invited Yan Kuangtu and Fatty Kong Jean to his residence. Lu Ming, do you have any good news for me? The fat guy's small eyes rolled around. Lu Ming smiled. After not seeing him for a few years, this fellow's conduct hadn't changed at all. This time there is indeed something good. Lu Ming let out a smile as a jade bottle appeared. 2 Nirvana pills flew out from the bottle toward the Fatty and Yan Kuangtu, respectively. As soon as the 2 of them smelled the medicinal fragrance emitted by the Nirvana pill, They knew that it was definitely not an ordinary pill. They quickly wrapped it in their true essence and held it in their hands. Lu Ming, what kind of medicinal pill is this? Yan Kuangtu asked curiously. This pill is known as the Nirvana pill. After consuming it, one's bloodline will undergo nirvana, and there is a chance that it will raise one's bloodline by 1 or even 2 levels. Lu Ming explained. What? Yan Kuangtu and Fatty were completely stunned. It could actually allow one's bloodline to undergo nirvana and raise its level. This is too heaven-defying, isn't it? Both of their hearts began to thump wildly. Both of their bloodlines were at level 8 divine realm. Although it seemed very advanced, it wasn't perfect. A level 9 divine realm bloodline was the perfect bloodline. In the Yuan continent, the minimum requirement for recruiting disciples was to awaken a level 9 divine realm bloodline. The two of them naturally desired a level 9 divine realm bloodline. However, a bloodline was innate. Unless one awakened the heaven-defying 9 dragons bloodline like Lu Ming, it would be difficult to raise it. But now the medicinal pills in their hands were able to strengthen their bloodline. Their breathing became heavy. Lu Ming, this medicinal pill is too precious. Yan Kuangtu took a deep breath and calmed down first. He looked at Lu Ming and said, Brother Yan, just take it. The Nirvana pill will be of great use to you. Lu Ming said with a smile. All right then. Yan Kuangtu wasn't a wishy-washy person. He immediately took it. Kong Jin didn't stand on ceremony either. Most importantly, the Nirvana pill was too useful for them. Once their bloodline reached level 9 divine realm, it wouldn't be difficult for them to break through to the Emperor realm. There were only 9 Nirvana pills. Lu Ming planned to give them to Yan Kuangtu and Fatty for the time being, because their bloodline was closest to level 9 divine realm. Lu Ming wanted to give one to Lu Yuntian. Also, Lu Ming wanted to help Li Ping cultivate martial arts. Only by cultivating martial arts could Li Ping's lifespan increase and live longer. Although Li Ping didn't have the talent for cultivation and was old, it wouldn't be a problem with Lu Ming's current means. With the help of the Nirvana pill, Li Ping could awaken her bloodline and cultivate to martial king or even spiritual sea in the future. There were also his 2 in-name disciples, Zhuang Shaoshan and Zhuang Sharo. Ever since he took them in as disciples, Lu Ming had not taught them well. As a master, Lu Ming could be said to be very irresponsible. Therefore, he had to leave 2 Nirvana pills for them. In this way, there were only 3 Nirvana pills left. Lu Ming planned to keep them for now. Also, here's a secret technique that's suitable for you. 2 jade tokens flew out of Lu Ming's hand and flew to Yan Kuangtu and Fatty. After the 2 of them took a look, they were stunned again. Their eyes were wide open, and their mouths were wide open. Shocked, they were too shocked. This was because the secret technique in the jade token was the cultivation method of a pure spirit body. Lu Ming made a few copies. There's actually such a mysterious secret technique in the world. Yan Kuangtu sighed. At the same time, he was also moved. He had been stuck at the Supreme Realm for many years. Now that he had the Nirvana pills and a pure spirit body, he was confident that he would be able to break through to the ruler realm in less than a year. Haha, Lu Ming, you're really my lucky star. Fatty did not stand on ceremony and hurriedly put away the cultivation method of the pure spirit body. Lu Ming, thank you. Yan Kuangtu solemnly cupped his fists at Lu Ming. Big brother Yan, with our relationship, there's no need to thank me. Lu Ming smiled. After Yan Kuangtu and Fatty left, Lu Ming began to cultivate in seclusion with all his might. It was getting closer and closer to the 1-month deadline. Lu Ming wanted to improve his strength as much as possible during this period of time. Only a pure spirit body could improve his strength in a short period of time. Therefore, Lu Ming cultivated the pure spirit body with all his might. A large number of primordial stones were refined by Lu Ming and turned into the strength of his physical body. Finally, half a month later, the pure spirit body made another breakthrough and reached 60% maturity. Every time it increased by 10%, Lu Ming's strength would become stronger. At this time, there was still a week before the 1-month deadline. It's time to make a trip to the heaven-suppressing divine army. Lu Ming took a step forward and left the secret cultivation room. Chapter 1329. In the central continent near the northern plains, there was a boundless mountain range. This was where the Heaven Suppression Army was located. The headquarters of the Heaven Suppression Army wasn't originally here. However, in the battle a few months ago, the headquarters of the Heaven Suppression Army was defeated by the joint forces of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. They suffered heavy losses and could only retreat to this place. In front of them, there were many mountains that looked like divine swords. They rose from the ground and formed a barrier. Obviously, these mountains were pulled out from the ground by peerless experts. Between each sword-shaped mountain, there were huge chains that were connected to each other. On the chains and the mountain, there were dense inscriptions. Especially at the peak of each mountain, there were several huge arrow towers. Beside the arrow towers, there were powerhouses guarding. These arrow towers weren't ordinary arrow towers. They were built with origin stones as the foundation and were activated by experts in the martial Tao. Together with the formation, their power was boundless. They could even kill spiritual gods. Outside the sword-shaped mountain, the space cracked and 2 figures appeared. The Heaven Suppression Army is indeed not simple. They were able to build such a huge project in just a few months. Lu Ming looked ahead and sighed. The Heaven Suppression Army has been competing with the Xie clan for tens of thousands of years. They naturally have their reasons. Xiaowan said, "Who is it?" At this moment, a loud shout came from the sword-shaped mountain. Then, the sound of the air being torn apart resounded. A few figures appeared in front of Xiaowan and Lu Ming. They were emitting powerful auras. Supremes! Lu Ming's heart shook. The 3 figures that appeared were all Supremes. Their powerful auras locked onto Lu Ming and Xiaowan. You're the chaotic sky sovereign, Xiaowan." After the 3 of them glanced at Xiaowan, their expressions changed drastically, and they exclaimed, "I have something to discuss with the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. Quickly pass the message." Xiaowan said, "Yes, please wait a moment." Facing an overlord like Xiaowan, the Supremes didn't dare to be negligent. They quickly took out their voice transmission jade talismans and sent the message. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In just 10 minutes, a few rays of light rushed out from the depths of the sword-shaped mountain and appeared in front of Lu Ming and the others. Their auras were vast and unfathomable. They were all rulers. The aura of the leader was even more vast and powerful, far surpassing that of an ordinary martial emperor. It was the 100 Battles Martial Emperor that Lu Ming had seen before. "Haha, Brother Xia, what brings you here?" The 100 Battles Martial Emperor laughed and looked at Xiaowan. Then, he shifted his gaze from Xiaowan to Lu Ming. Following this, the 100 Battle Martial Emperor was startled as he said, "You are Lu Ming?" These words shocked the rest of the heaven-suppressing divine army. The young man in front of him was Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming's reputation was like the sun in the sky. Being able to kill a martial emperor at such a young age and fight against a peak second-layer martial dominator realm expert. Such a genius had never appeared in the history of the divine desolate continent. Lu Ming's current combat strength was already at the pinnacle of the divine wilderness continent, an overlord of a region. How could the members of the divine army not be shocked? Junior Lu Ming greets the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. Lu Ming brought his fists together. "Dispense with the formalities. Dispense with the formalities. Little brother Lu, please dispense with the formalities." The 100 Battles Martial Emperor immediately waved his hand and said, "It's an honor to have Brother Lu and Brother Xia here today. Come in." Lu Ming and Xiaowan nodded their heads and followed the 100 Battles Martial Emperor and the others into the sword-shaped mountain. So many experts, As soon as they arrived at the sword-shaped mountain, they could see a mountain with a strong presence of qi and various buildings. Lu Ming could sense several powerful auras in the vast mountain. They were all experts. The heaven-suppressing divine army and some of their allies had gathered together. Thus there were many experts. Moreover, there were many soldiers in iron armor patrolling the area. The military appearance was very strong. However, Lu Ming noticed something amiss among the soldiers. Their morale was low. That's right, their morale was low. The heaven-suppressing divine army had suffered a crushing defeat not long ago. Even a few martial emperors had fallen, resulting in a great loss. Thus their morale was low. The group arrived at a hall and took their seats. Not long after, more people arrived at the hall. They were the upper echelons of the heaven-suppressing divine army, who were at least 9 heaven supremes. There were even 9 martial emperors present. The heaven-suppressing divine army did not have that many martial emperors, as some of the other factions had formed an alliance with the heaven-suppressing divine army. Due to the current situation of the godly desolation continent, it was reasonable for them to gather together. I did not expect Brother Lu and Brother Xie to be here today. Come, let me give you a toast. The 100 Battles martial emperor raised his cup and emptied it in a straightforward manner. Lu Ming and Xie Luan also symbolically drank a mouthful. The 100 Battles martial emperor took a sip of the wine with a smile on his face. He glanced at Lu Ming and Xie Luan and changed the topic. If I'm not mistaken, you two are here for the sacred city in 7 days, right? That's right, Lu Ming said. The 100 Battles martial emperor went straight to the point, while Lu Ming did the same. Oh, I wonder what is your purpose for coming to the heaven-suppressing divine army? The 100 Battles martial emperor asked. Our purpose is simple. We want to invite the heaven-suppressing divine army to fight the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan in 7 days at the sacred city. We want to decide the outcome of the battle. Lu Ming's voice was sonorous and forceful. What? Hearing this, the faces of the heaven-suppressing divine army changed drastically. The hall fell silent. After a long while, someone spoke. Fight the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan? What a joke. Even if you join forces with us, you are still no match for the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan. If you go, you will only be courting death. An armored, martial emperor sneered. If we don't fight with them and wait for the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and the Xie clan to form an alliance, the heaven-suppressing divine army and the northern plains will be the next ones to attack. At that time, we will still die. We will just be struggling at death's door for a few more days. Lu Ming replied with a cold smile. However, if we go to the sacred city in 7 days, we will die immediately. If we drag it out, we might have a chance. The armored, martial emperor said. The other members of the heaven-suppressing divine army did not say anything. However, their eyes told Lu Ming that they had the same idea as the armored martial emperor. You are just afraid of DE and the 2 experts beside him. Let us deal with them. You just have to deal with the Xie clan. What do you think? Lu Ming said. You can deal with the 3 experts. The 100 Battle martial emperor looked doubtful. Obviously, he did not believe Sioux Quebec. You can deal with the 3 experts? Haha, do you think we are fools? I believe that the chaotic sky divine army can deal with one of them. However, who can deal with the other 2? Lu Ming, do you think you can? The armored martial emperor looked at Lu Ming with disdain. Even though it's said that you can fight against a cultivator of the 2nd Huangqi layer, your opponent has an imperial weapon. Besides, the rumors are exaggerated. Can you really fight against a cultivator of the 2nd Huangqi layer? Or do you really have the strength of an imperial weapon? The armored martial emperor sneered. Chapter 1330. Although it was rumored that Lu Ming's strength was unparalleled, allowing him to defeat a peak 2nd layer martial dominator realm expert. However, they did not believe it in their hearts, especially when they saw that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the peak spiritual god realm. It was ridiculous for a peak spiritual god realm expert to defeat a peak second layer martial dominator realm expert. In their opinion, the rumors were too exaggerated. Indeed, who would believe such a thing without witnessing it with their own eyes? So, do you want to try? Lu Ming glanced at the armored martial dominator with a faint smile. That's right. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't believe a mere spiritual god can defeat a martial dominator realm expert. The armored martial dominator rose to his feet while his body emitted a strong battle intent. He was a battle-hungry man. Most of the people in the heaven-suppressing army were battle-hungry. Very well, let's fight outside. Lu Ming rose to his feet and took a step forward, appearing in the air outside the hall. He knew that the battle would not be so simple. If he did not show his strength, the heaven-suppressing army would not dare to place their bet on him. The armored martial dominator also flew out of the hall and arrived in the air, facing Lu Ming. Come, let's go and take a look. The rest of the people left the hall and stood in the air. The experts of the heaven-suppressing army also sensed the situation and rose into the air, glancing in Qin Nan's direction. Lu Ming, make your move. Show me what you got. The armored martial dominator's battle intent grew stronger. I'll make the first move. Sure, 3 moves. Lu Ming reached out 3 fingers and said, If you can withstand 3 moves from me without being defeated, I'll admit defeat. What, 3 moves? Lu Ming is so arrogant. Does he really possess the strength of a peak second-layer martial dominator realm expert? I don't believe it. Lu Ming's words caused an uproar among the crowd. The 100-battle martial dominator secretly glanced at Xiaowan and saw him standing there with a calm smile on his face, as if he already knew the outcome. Could it be that Lu Ming is really as terrifying as the rumors say? The 100-battle martial dominator still found it hard to believe. Very well, let's see how you're going to defeat me in 3 moves. The armored martial dominator's eyes flickered with anger. Boom! A powerful aura exploded from his body. His vital qi was burning like a flame. His domain spread out and his muscles bulged. In an instant he was wearing an armor and his strength was raised to the extreme. Although he didn't believe that Lu Ming was as exaggerated as the rumors said, there was no smoke without fire. When faced with Lu Ming, he still wouldn't be careless. Whoosh! Lu Ming used the primordial wind technique and his body flickered. He was like an illusion as he charged towards the armored martial emperor. At the same time, dragon roars resounded in the air as 9 streams of dragon force burst forth. Boom! Lu Ming punched out, and the faint image of the suppressing hell monument appeared on his fist. So strong! When Lu Ming punched out, the armored martial emperor's expression changed greatly. The power of this punch shocked him and made him feel an enormous pressure. The expressions of the Heaven Suppression Army watching the battle changed drastically. The might of this punch was too terrifying. It wasn't something that a spiritual god could execute at all, and it had reached the ruler realm. Block it! The armored martial emperor roared and punched out as well. 2 fists collided in the air. Boom! Shockwaves spread out in all directions. The domain covering the armored martial emperor's body trembled violently as if it would collapse at any time. Then the armored martial emperor's face turned pale and his body flew backward with a bang. The Heaven Suppression Army gasped when they saw that the armored martial emperor had been sent flying with 1 punch. The armored martial emperor flew 100 miles before he could stabilize his body. Second move. Lu Ming said indifferently. He took a step forward and traveled 100 miles in an instant. At the same time, the 3rd bloodline appeared on top of his head. A stream of energy flowed into Lu Ming's body, and Lu Ming's strength increased again. Boom! The 2nd punch was punched out. Explosive breaking army fist. The armored martial emperor roared and his hair stood on end. He exerted all his strength and punched out. The 2 fists collided for the 2nd time. However, This time, the armored martial emperor was in a more miserable state. His domain was instantly destroyed, and his body and arms made cracking sounds. He was sent flying far away, and blood spurted out of his mouth. The second move had seriously injured the armored martial emperor. "Do you want to come again?" Lu Ming's cold voice could be heard. "Again," the armored martial emperor roared. He was a martial emperor, and he could not allow himself to be defeated by Lu Ming in 3 moves. He had to survive 3 moves. Boom! The armored martial emperor's body swelled up. At the same time, a huge shield appeared in his hand. The domain covered the shield, and it looked indestructible. He took a defensive stance for this move. "Third move," Lu Ming said. He stepped into the air and punched out for the 3rd time. Lu Ming did not use the hell-suppressing heaven skill for this punch. Instead, he used the intent realm martial technique. The fusion of 5 intent realm martial techniques. Now, the fusion of 5 intent realm martial techniques was more powerful than the hell-suppressing heaven skill. The main reason was that with the improvement of the hell-suppressing steel bloodline, the level of the hell-suppressing heaven skill had already surpassed the inferior divine level martial technique. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could not exert the full power of the hell-suppressing heaven skill. When Lu Ming's cultivation broke through to the martial emperor realm, his true essence would be more abundant, and the power of the hell-suppressing heaven skill would naturally skyrocket. Clang! The punch landed on the armored martial emperor's shield. The shield was covered with the domain, but under the punch, the domain was like a bubble instantly collapsing. The shield let out a violent roar, forming a sound wave that spread out and tore the space apart. Then a shocking scene appeared. The shield was deformed. The place where Lu Ming's punch landed on was dented. The armored martial emperor's face changed drastically. Bang! The armored martial emperor could not hold the shield at all. The heavy shield was like a mountain, and it crashed into the armored martial emperor's body. Crackle! The armored martial emperor's body made a series of bone-breaking sounds. His body flew far away and fell to the ground. He vomited blood and could not move for a while. The armored martial emperor was defeated, completely defeated. Facing Lu Ming, he was crushed and had no power to resist. Gulp! Many people swallowed their saliva and looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of shock. They no longer doubted him. Lu Ming's combat strength could completely crush an ordinary martial emperor. It would not be too difficult for him to kill the armored martial emperor. Maybe the rumors were not exaggerated and they were true. The people of the heaven-suppressing divine army changed their minds. Amazing, amazing. Little Brother Lu is really unparalleled in the world, the first of all time. The 100 Battles martial emperor strode forward, his face full of admiration. However, the 100 Battles martial emperor changed his tone and said, "However, I still want to experience it. It's not that I doubt Little Brother Lu, but I have to be responsible for everyone in the heaven-suppressing divine army." The 100 Battles martial emperor stood in front of Lu Ming, his body emitting a powerful aura that was several times stronger than the armored martial emperor's. He was right. For the sake of the heaven-suppressing divine army, he had to know Lu Ming's combat strength clearly. Make your move. Chapter 1331. Fight. Without wasting any time, the 100 Battle martial emperor took a step forward and unleashed an invincible battle intent. With a wave of his hand, the heavens and earth crumbled. His strength was much stronger than the armor martial emperor's. The strength of a second-layer martial emperor was much stronger than a first-layer martial emperor. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He merged his 5 wills and threw out a punch. Bang! As the 2 fists collided, Lu Ming felt a tremendous force surging toward him. Lu Ming's body was knocked backward as the blood in his body churned. He could feel a piercing pain coming from his fist. Dong! Dong! The 100 Battle martial emperor stomped the ground and continued to charge toward Lu Ming like an invincible god of battle. The 100-Battle Martial Emperor was known as the 100-Battle Martial Emperor. He had walked out from countless battles and was extremely experienced in battle. His attacks were simple, but they were powerful enough to kill with a single strike. Roar! Lu Ming unleashed his 9 dragons bloodline and merged his bloodlines to fight against the 100-Battle Martial Emperor. Bang! 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 The two fought fiercely, from the ground to the sky, from the sky to the ground, and even to the alternate dimension. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. He was no match for the 100-Battle Martial Emperor. Although the 100-Battle Martial Emperor's cultivation had not reached the peak of the second-layer Martial Emperor, he was at the mid-stage of the second-layer Martial Emperor. When Lu Ming executed the Chaotic Will, he could fight against a peak second-layer Martial Emperor. However, when he did not execute the Chaotic Will, his strength was weaker than the 100-Battle Martial Emperor's. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged more than 10 moves. Lu Ming, is this all you've got? How can the heaven-suppressing, godly troop fight against the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, and the Xia clan with you? The 100-Battle Martial Emperor's voice could be heard. The Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, had formed an alliance with the Xia clan. Their next target would be the heaven-suppressing, godly troop or the Northern Plains. How could the 100-Battle Martial Emperor not know this? However, if he wanted to fight against the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, and the Xia clan with Lu Ming and the others, he had to see hope. Lu Ming was his hope. If Lu Ming was as strong as the rumors said, why not take the risk? You want to see my full strength? There's no hurry. You can't beat me now. Lu Ming let out a long roar, the 9 dragon claws unceasingly striking out. The power of the 5 different wills was displayed to the extreme, and there were even signs of a breakthrough. Yes, Lu Ming's 5 types of martial skills were originally at the peak of the 4th level. He was only a sliver away from the 5th level. The 100 Battles Martial Monarch was a veteran of hundreds of battles. He was a very good target for tempering. After fighting with the 100 Battles Martial Monarch, Lu Ming's 5 types of martial techniques seemed to show signs of a breakthrough. Then let's see how long you can hide. The Baijian Martial Emperor shouted coldly as a long spear appeared in his hand. The long spear pierced through the air with incredible power. An ordinary level 1 Martial Emperor would be killed in 2 moves. The two of them crisscrossed, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Clang! Suddenly, one of the 9 dragons' claws grabbed the tip of the spear, creating a metallic sound. The 9 dragons retreated, but the Emperor of the 100 Battles also retreated a few steps. Did your martial technique have a breakthrough? The 100 Battles Martial Monarch blurted out in disbelief. Ha ha ha! Thanks for your help, allowing my martial technique to have a breakthrough. Lu Ming burst out laughing. The others were left speechless. Just a moment ago, Lu Ming's martial technique had a breakthrough during the battle with the 100 Battles Martial Monarch. Wasn't this talent a bit too insane? It's only a breakthrough, thus its power is still limited. The 100 Battles Martial Monarch's voice could be heard as he continued to attack Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming let out a calm smile as he lashed out with his dragon claws. Clang! After exchanging another blow with the 100 Battles Martial Monarch, Lu Ming was knocked backward, but the 100 Battles Martial Monarch was knocked backward too. How is this possible? How is it possible that its power has improved so much? The 100 Battles Martial Monarch was in disbelief. Previously, Lu Ming had been completely suppressed by the 100 Battles Martial Monarch. Thus, he could only dodge the attacks. However, Lu Ming had only improved one of his martial techniques by a level. How is it possible that its power had improved so much? Little did he know that Lu Ming had not only improved one of his martial techniques, but 5 of them. Lu Ming had combined the 5 types of martial techniques. Therefore, when he broke through, the 5 types of martial techniques would break through at the same time. Naturally, the power would soar. Previously, the 100 Battles Martial Monarch had been no match against him, but now he was able to stand his ground. Thank you, Martial Monarch. It's time for the battle to come to an end, Lu Ming said. Following this, a chaotic aura was emitted from the 9 dragons' bodies. Chaotic intent. Bang! The 9 dragons executed the hell-suppressing heavenly art and lashed out with their claws, which were surrounded by the chaotic intent. 100 battles, godly fist. The 100 battles, martial monarch withdrew his spear and executed his strongest attack. At that instant, the 100 battles, martial monarch threw out 100 punches. Each of the punches contained a tremendous power that could penetrate the ground and destroy mountains and rivers. 100 brilliant fist intents gathered in the air and merged into a single fist intent, causing its power to skyrocket. Bang! The fist intent collided with the 9 dragons' claws. However, as soon as they made contact, the fist intent of the 100 battles martial emperor was shattered instantly, causing it to explode like fireworks. The dragon claws did not stop there, crushing the rift. Puff! The 100 battles martial monarch spat out mouthfuls of blood as if he had been struck by lightning. His figure was sent flying for a few thousand li, leaving a long, dark tunnel behind him. He stared at Lu Ming in astonishment before he spat out another mouthful of blood. The others did not fare any better, leaving their jaws dropped. The 100 battles martial monarch had been defeated. Was this Lu Ming's true strength? Too powerful. He had managed to injure the 100 battles martial monarch with a single attack. His strength was comparable to a peak second-layer martial dominator realm cultivator. The rumors were not exaggerating at all. Martial monarch, do you still want to continue? Lu Ming's voice could be heard from the 9 dragons' mouth. That won't be necessary. The 100 battles martial monarch let out a sigh and shook his head. Your strength is comparable to a peak second-layer martial dominator realm cultivator. Even I won't stand a chance against you at this rate. There's no need to embarrass yourself. Saying this, the 100 battles martial monarch withdrew his aura. The 9 dragons shrunk while Lu Ming transformed into his true form. Well, well, well. An old voice could be heard all of a sudden, uttering 3 words in a row. Far away in the sky, an old man with a slender figure was walking through the air. The old man was extremely old. Most of his white hair had almost fallen out. His skin was dry, and his face was filled with wrinkles. However, the people of the heaven-suppressing army, including the 100 battles martial monarch, immediately greeted the old man. Greetings, Commander! Commander! Lu Ming's eyes glistened as he inspected the old man with a stern look. Although the old man seemed to be quite old, Lu Ming did not dare to underestimate him. The reason being that Lu Ming could sense a terrifying aura inside the old man's body. Peak second-layer martial dominator realm. The old man was actually a peak second-layer martial dominator realm expert. I've long heard that the heaven-suppressing army has an old commander with an unparalleled strength, but I've never had the chance to meet him before. I finally get to meet him today. Xie Wan stepped forward and said with a smile, Greetings, martial monarch of the chaotic sky. Chapter 1332. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The Heaven Suppression Army was indeed not simple. There was still such an expert hiding in the dark. Such an expert had never appeared in any of the previous battles. If the Heaven Suppression Army was like this, then how could the Xie clan not have any hidden trump cards? The old general of the Heaven Suppression Army first bowed to Xie Wan before looking at Lu Ming. He revealed a warm smile and said, Indeed, there are new talents in every generation. This old man admires little brother Lu's strength. Old general, you are too polite. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Emperor Wan, little brother Lu, this old man can give you a definite answer. The Heaven Suppression Army will definitely participate in the battle 7 days later, the old general said. Lu Ming and Xie Wan were overjoyed by his words. The old general's words meant that he had agreed to join forces with them to head to the Holy City 7 days later to fight the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. The 100 Battles, Martial Emperor, and the other experts of the Heaven Suppression Army were surprised, but they did not say anything. They also understood that the Heaven Suppression Army could not stay out of this battle. If the Northern Plains were defeated, the Heaven Suppression Army would not be able to escape the fate of destruction. Joining forces with the Northern Plains was their only chance. "All right, old General, everyone, we will meet in 7 days. See you in 7 days," Lu Ming and Xiaowan said before taking their leave. The goal of this trip could be considered a success. After returning to the 100 Beast Tribe, Lu Ming continued to cultivate in seclusion. Another 4 days later, there were only 3 days left before the alliance between the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. In a secret room, Lu Ming's glabella shone as the second body stepped out of Lu Ming's body. Following that, Lu Ming's main body waved his hand and the mountain river diagram flew out and flew to the second body. The second body kept it. After that, the main body closed his eyes while the second body revealed a smile. "Let's head to the holy city first." The second body smiled and took a step forward, disappearing from the place. After a while, the second body appeared billions of miles away from the 100 Beast Tribe. Lu Ming's plan was to have his second body enter the holy city first to gather information about Supreme Nanyang by Shijin and the others. Lu Ming's consciousness sank into the second body. The second body was just like his main body. "Let's disguise ourselves first." Lu Ming took out a gray robe and put it on. At the same time, his figure and face began to change. Finally, he transformed into a sallow-faced youth. His appearance was very ordinary. He was the kind of person who would not be easily noticed in a crowd. Following this, inscription runes appeared on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's aura began to converge until he was only a 7th rank inscription master. Then he took a step forward. Space split open and Lu Ming disappeared. Now that Ming Lian's second body had become a level 9 ruler, his speed was incredibly fast. In less than half a day, the holy city appeared in front of him. There were experts guarding the gates of the holy city. The checks were very strict. Everyone who entered had to go through strict checks. However, Lu Ming had inherited the legacy of the heavenly profound saint. His inscription skills had reached perfection. He used an inscription array to conceal himself. Even an emperor would not be able to detect him. Lu Ming entered the holy city easily. There are so many people. Walking on the streets of the holy city, Lu Ming realized that there were more people coming and going than when he was in the holy city. It was normal. There were still a few days before the alliance ceremony between the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, and the Xie clan. Now, the Xie clan and their allies had all entered the holy city. Many of the forces under the Emperor, Heavenly Divine Palace, had also come to the holy city. Naturally, the holy city was bustling. This evening, the Xie clan Xie Yan, Xie Zhan, and the other princes will be hosting a banquet at the Drunken Immortal Circle. All the young geniuses are welcome to attend. Lu Ming had just entered the holy city when he heard this news. Underworld child. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. In the end, only the underworld child, the unscrupulous monk, and the moonless bodhisattva had returned. However, Long Chun had not returned. No one knew what had happened. Lu Ming really wanted to know. Then the Drunken Immortal Circle will be bustling with noise and excitement this evening. We can't miss such a grand scene. Indeed, back then, 12 top geniuses went to the Divine Ruins continent. In the end, only 3 of them returned. 2 of them were from the Western Desert. The Western Desert's sage monk has always stayed out of things. In other words, the Underworld Child is now the top genius. That's right. The Underworld Child is destined to roam the divine wilderness in the future. That's why the Xie clan's princes specially invited the Underworld Child to a banquet to curry favor with him. Many people were discussing, and Lu Ming heard quite a bit of news. Lu Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile as he casually strolled on the streets. Soon it was evening. Lu Ming headed for the Drunken Immortal Circle. The drunken immortal circle was quite famous in the holy city. The environment inside was elegant, and there was a place for experts to spar. Therefore, it had become a gathering place for martial experts. At the entrance of the drunken immortal circle, there were many young elites coming and going. At the entrance, there were people checking, but they would only check casually before letting people in. After entering the drunken immortal circle, Lin Fan came to an open space filled with tables and chairs. Many people had already taken their seats. Lu Ming scanned the place and saw many familiar faces. Many of them were second-grade and third-grade geniuses from some overlord forces. On the highest platform, Lu Ming saw even more familiar figures: Xia Yan, Xia Zhen, the Xia clan's princes, and the Sky Martial Sword Faction's geniuses, Wu Qingkong. Previously, Lu Ming knew that the Sky Martial Sword Faction had already submitted to the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Therefore, Wu Qingkong and the others had also become part of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. "The underworld child is here," someone said. In the distance, a black-robed youth walked over with his hands behind his back. He exuded a domineering aura. This person was the underworld child. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xia Yan, Xia Zhen, Wu Qingkong, and the others quickly flew into the sky to welcome the underworld child. "Haha, I am honored that brother underworld child is here." Xia Yan laughed heartily. "Not bad, not bad. Brother underworld child's presence brings light to my humble dwelling," Xia Zhen said, not to be outdone. Following which, the other geniuses started to flatter the underworld child. Currently, the underworld child was the #1 genius among the younger generation in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, including the Xia clan. He was also the only overlord genius. His future was limitless. Naturally, they had to curry favor with him. You are all too polite," the underworld child said with his hands behind his back, looking high and mighty. Xia Zhen and the others did not mind. They welcomed the underworld child to the platform and started to flatter him again. The underworld child pursed his lips and pretended to be calm. Actually, he was enjoying it very much. He enjoyed this feeling very much. He was intoxicated by the feeling of being the moon surrounded by the stars. In the past, he was also the moon surrounded by the stars. As the overlord genius of the divine wilderness continent, he stood at the peak. However, there were more than 10 people who could compete with him. His presence was undoubtedly weakened. Chapter 1333. Now, in the entire divine wilderness mainland, the Western Desert doesn't care about worldly affairs. Among the younger generation, besides Lu Ming, Brother Ming is the best. Amidst the compliments, a voice suddenly sounded. The place fell silent. Lu Ming. It was as if the name Lu Ming had a magical power that made everyone shut up. Everyone looked at each other, but no one said a word. Lu Ming's name was like a huge mountain pressing down on everyone's hearts. He was in the same generation as them, but his current strength was enough to kill emperors and fight against peak second-layer martial emperors. He stood at the peak of the divine, desolate continent and looked down on the world. Among his peers, no one could be compared to Lu Ming. The so-called geniuses here were far too inferior compared to Lu Ming. They were so far apart that they did not know how far apart they were. Underworld child's face darkened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The young man who had just spoken turned pale and broke out in cold sweat. He knew that he had said something wrong. He had wanted to flatter Underworld child, but he had subconsciously used Lu Ming's name. "Brother Ming, please forgive me. I didn't mean to." The young man quickly apologized and stammered. It would have been better if he hadn't explained himself. Underworld child's face darkened even more. "What an idiot. Get out of my way," Xia Zhen scolded, and the young man quickly left. Humph, although Lu Ming is strong, he doesn't know how to judge the situation. He won't live for long and will die eventually. When that time comes, who in the world will be able to compete with Brother Ming? Xia Zhen continued. Underworld Child's face turned slightly better after hearing this. That's right. Lu Ming won't live for long. He still wants to go against the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. He's courting death. Such a brainless person. Even if he has some fighting strength, he's still a brainless brute. In my opinion, he's too weak compared to Brother Ming. The others immediately flattered Underworld Child. A smile reappeared on Underworld Child's face. All of you are right. Actually, Lu Ming's talent is ordinary. He is just lucky, and his combat ability is slightly stronger than mine. However, because of this, he is arrogant and condescending. Back when he was in the continent of God's ruins, he even dared to offend the elites of Yuanlu's celestial god sect. Such a brainless person will definitely have limited achievements. Even if he doesn't die in the divine wilderness continent, he will be killed by the experts of the celestial sect. Underworld Child said disdainfully, Brother Mingzi is right. Brother Ming is right. Another wave of compliments came from the others. Brother Ming, how about this little brother treat you to a good show? Xie Zhen said with a smile. Oh, what show is it? Underworld Child revealed an interested expression. Brother Ming, please wait a moment. Xie Zhen smiled, and then his voice spread far and wide. Bring him here. Yes. Soon, a group of Emperor Dragon Guards led 10-odd people over. Sunlin, Taixing. Among the crowd, Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly. The 10-odd people who were brought over were the law enforcement army that Lu Ming had met when he was in the sacred city. Taixing, the burly chimpanzee, Sunlin, the Emperor Dragon Guard who had been transferred to the law enforcement army by Xie Zhen. At this moment, Taixing and the others were in a sorry state. Their auras were weak and their faces were pale. It was obvious that they had suffered serious injuries. Soon, Taixing and the others were brought to Xie Zhen. They are. Underworld Child was slightly stunned. He did not understand why Xie Zhen had brought 10-odd burly men over. Brother Ming, these people are very close to Lu Ming. They were Lu Ming's subordinates back then. Xie Zhen said, Xie Zhen, you are despicable and shameless. You want us to slander the commander? Dream on. Taixing roared. Shut up. What slander? Xie Zhen reprimanded with a cold gaze. I'll give you one more chance. Tell me, did Lu Ming use despicable means to kill others to cultivate his martial arts? Also, did he deliberately harm young girls to nourish his yang? Is that why his cultivation improved so quickly? You are his subordinates, so you should know very well. Let me remind you that you'd better think carefully before you speak. Don't forget what happened to your companions. Xie Zhen said coldly as his cold gaze swept over Taixing, and the others' faces turned ugly. Some of them even looked terrified. Bullshit! Don't even think about slandering the commander. The commander is a man of indomitable spirit. Why would he do such a thing? Taixing roared. That's right. Why would the commander do such a thing? Don't even think about using us to ruin the commander's reputation. You killed so many of our brothers. The commander will definitely come back to avenge us. Someone else also shouted. In the crowd, Lu Ming's gaze turned even colder. He had a rough idea of what was going on. Lu Ming was on good terms with the law enforcement army. It was obvious that Xie Zhen had captured the law enforcement army and wanted to force them to slander Lu Ming, saying that Lu Ming was using evil methods to nourish his yang. That was why his cultivation improved so quickly. In this way, not only could he ruin Lu Ming's reputation, but he could also infuriate Lu Ming. In the alliance ceremony a few days later, Lu Ming would be more likely to appear and kill Lu Ming. However, the law enforcement army refused to comply. Moreover, according to the crowd's conversation, the other law enforcement army members had already been killed by Xie Zhen. There were only a dozen of them left. Damn it! Lu Ming's killing intent was as cold as a knife in his heart. Xie Zhen's face was extremely gloomy as he berated. I'll give you one more chance. Speak or not die. Don't even think about it. I'd rather die than do such a despicable thing. Taishing roared. The others also glared at him, unafraid of death. They, the law enforcement army, had a low status in the imperial city and lived a miserable life. In order to survive, they had to curry favor from both sides, living without any dignity. It was Lu Ming who allowed them to hold their heads high. After Lu Ming joined the law enforcement army, they could finally hold their heads high. They could act as the law enforcement army on behalf of the sacred emperor, returning to the situation of 30,000 years ago when the law enforcement army intimidated the world. Therefore, they were extremely grateful to Lu Ming. Therefore, they couldn't slander Lu Ming. Xie Zhen, as a prince, you did such a despicable thing. You're a disgrace to the imperial family and the Xie family. Taishing continued to roar. Shut up! You're courting death. Xie Zhen was enraged. A battle knife appeared in his hand, and he slashed at Taishing's neck. He brought Taishing and the others here to curry favor with another child, but he didn't expect Taishing and the others to bite him back, causing his reputation to suffer a blow. He wished he could chop Taishing and the others into pieces. The blade light was cold and as fast as lightning, slashing at Taishing. At this moment, Taishing's cultivation was sealed and his aura was weak. It was impossible for him to dodge. Taishing was about to die under Xie Zhen's blade. Whoosh! At this moment, a wine cup flew out from the crowd and collided with Xie Zhen's battle knife. Clang! Inscriptions flashed on the wine cup and collided with the battle knife. Buzz!